It's where fans shout. It's where cars scream. Where every color is represented, yet it's all red, white, and blue. It's high-flying, eye-popping, rip-roaring fun. The kind you wait for. The kind you live for. The kind you never, ever forget. Dover International Speedway. Experience traditions. Cemented in Dover.
The road to $10,000 rolls through the first state live tonight on RaceSpotTV, iRacing Live, Fans Choice TV, and the Motor Racing Network. This is round number 15 of the 2017 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing. Happy to be with you this evening for the Dover 200 from the Dover International Speedway, where we say good evening sim racing fans and welcome topside to the RaceSpotTV booth. Myself, Evan Pasoko, alongside with Cam Walsh, Tim Terry, upstairs making a call with you. And as always, downstairs, our director, Hugo Louise, is twisted and tweaking at dials and bringing us to you this evening. And Tim, tonight, we head to Dover. Most importantly, the context of tonight's race, the last race on the round of 8 in the playoffs, as we get set to figure out who will be the 4-driver winner-take-all championship grid for the season finale in 2 weeks' time.
In short, Ray Alfalla is locked in. He'll race for a championship at Homestead. There are 7 other drivers. 3 spots are on the line to join Ray Alfalla. Dover is a unique racetrack. You really have to manhandle your car around here. This one is going to be good. We're going to see who locks himself in to vie for a championship.
Bobby Zalenski comes into tonight only 3 points above the final transfer spot into the playoffs. We chatted with him a little bit earlier tonight to get his thoughts on tonight's 200-lap affair. And we're down with the driver of the number 83 machine, Bobby Zalenski. Bobby, you guys came off of a little bit of a rough go 2 weeks ago at Chicago. A finish outside of the top 15 means that tonight you guys come in right on the cusp, only 3 points to the good in the final transfer position. What's the objective tonight at Dover?
The objective's really just do as best as we can. This is a really good track for me. It's probably my best oval. Setup's feeling really good tonight. For tonight, so I'm just gonna aim for the first position, you know, and see what happens. You know, there's gonna be a lot of fast guys out there, and we gotta make sure to be in front of everyone behind us, basically, and hope that one of those 4 behind us don't get in victory lane, or we're gonna be in trouble unless we finish at least 8 points ahead of Clamp. So it's gonna be complicated night for sure. But I'm just gonna do everything I can to win. So it's gonna be a fun one.
And the easy way for you guys to get into Homestead is, as you just said, to get the win. But there's so many different possibilities here. If somebody from below you in the points wins, you would then have to get up in front of Logan Clampett. If none of those guys do, you just have to beat the likes of Vincent and Richardson by 3 or 4 spots. That could be changing lap by lap, but just the fact that we're at Dover, a racetrack that, despite the fact that it's a mile in length, is going to be chaotic over the course of the night. Are you going to be asking your guys at the team to be letting you know over the course of the run, here's where these guys are running, here's what you got to do, and giving you updates, or you do not want to hear any of that?
Oh yeah, I'll be asking them a lot, specifically when they're pitting, because if we get some green flag runs, I'm going to probably want to be on the same strategy as them no matter what, because of the opportunity of a caution coming out right in the middle of the cycle. At least I'm with them instead of, which is what happened last week. The reason we finished back in 18th to the top 10 is we pitted, the caution came out right after we went back to P30 after running top 10 all day. So I'm going to be wanting to stay on strategy with those guys as much as possible, just so I can have the same fate as them. And it's just too risky for me to try something else.
Well, coming into this race, your name is in the green, and for your sake, by the end of 200 laps, we hope that it stays above that cut line. Bobby, best of luck tonight. Thanks for chatting with us.
Thank you.
So that's a conversation with the driver who is 4th in the championship. We'll talk more about points. First, let's go trackside and take a look at at tonight's RaceSpotTV starting grid. Pole position tonight belongs to Logan Clampett with a 26.59. Will lead Zach Novak to the green flag. Bobby Zelensky starting third. Ray Alfalla fourth. And Alan Bowes inside of the top 5. Jake Sturgis with 6th spot tonight, back on row 4. Cody Baez 7th. And BJ Sturgis at 8th with Mitchell Hunt. Ryan Luza, your top 10.
Chris Oberlin, Kenny Humby just outside of the top 10 in qualifying. Dylan Duval, Alex Bergeron, 2 Canadians on the next row. Nolan Scott, Will Cooley, Corey Vincent, there's a championship contender in 17th. Taylor Hurst, Andrew Fash 3rd, and Christian Chalner trying to lock himself in with a win in 20th.
48 cars starts in 21st position. That's Chandler Kreisig. Derek Bordeaux starting in 22nd. Byron Daly starts 23rd. Michael Conti, he starts back at 24th. Philip Diaz 25th. Casey Tucker 26th. Nick Ottinger, he will start from 27th. Joe Linarillo will start from 28th. Ryan Schoenberg will start 29th. Marcus Richardson will start your top 30.
30th at the back, Marcus Richardson is right there with Blake Reynolds in 31st. Jimmy Bullis, David Rattler, Tyler Hill, and Adam Gilliland through 35th. Chris Sherburne, Timmy Hill, Jake Nichols, Josh Berry, and Ryan Lowe through 40th, with Matt Busa and Michael J. Johnson in the back at 42nd. So into tonight, Ray Alfalla is locked into the championship. Ryan Luza has 26 points up in 2nd. Clampett is 11 points up in 3rd. And Zelensky is 3 points up at 4th. The drivers below the cut line, Vincent -3, Richardson -4, and Novak and Challen are outside by 30 or plus points. Basically need a win if they want any shot at fighting at Homestead in 2 weeks' time. But as always, we're happy that you're with us tonight on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live. Pace car down and in, and Logan Clampett is gone. He's trying to run all the way to Homestead as we go green from Dover for the second to last race on 2017 and the final of the round of 8.
Yeah, he's about halfway to Florida right now with that jump on that start. The 15 of Zach Novak on the outside of the 83 of Bobby Zelensky. Then the driver that's already locked into Homestead. Ray Alfalla in the 2 finds his way into 4th with Alan Bowes in 5th. There's a driver who's had a terrible season since the first couple of races, Evan. Looking to turn it around in the 21, Alan Bowes looking to play spoiler.
He has a good car tonight. Starting top 5 is going to be able to maintain that running position. In fact, the top 6 all stay where they started. First change for position is with that bright 41 of Jake Sturgis. He jumped up in front of PJ Sturgis. Swapped at a couple of spots there. 7th and 8th position on the racetrack down the front straightaway. But early on, drivers trying to single file out. Side by side inside of the top 10. Looks like the one to lose under attack by the 27 to Cody Baez in a 2-way fight for 8th. And Luce is going to get that spot up on the outside.
Yeah, and it looks to me like the Sturgis brothers are here and ready to fight as they're going on the inside of Alan Bowes is Jake Sturgis. These guys really haven't had the best season that they could want. Could perhaps they play spoiler here at Dover International Speedway and end up taking the win away from one of these playoff drivers right now. Logan Clampett, though, he has got Zach Novak all over his rearview mirror as they're going down the front stretch one more time.
We saw non-playoff driver Hurst take home the spoiler a couple of weeks ago from Chicago and get meaning that Ray Alfalla, courtesy of the win at Arlington, the only driver in the playoffs who has locked his way into Homestead. Everybody else going to have to focus on the points, unless, as I noted, your Novak and Challenger, who really have to go for broke and need a win to get in, because 30-plus points, while not mathematically impossible, is extremely unlikely of happening. And first thing I noticed as these drivers continue to work green, starting to single file things out and really try to break out into a green flag run to open up tonight's 200-lap contest as we watch the battle for the lead, Tim. As it's overcast skies and cool conditions, that means a lot of grip, and that means that Novak going to go to the outside. That battle will have to wait. Caution flag is out for Matt Busa and Michael Johnson.
Yeah, Matt Busa is tore up, and that might end his night as that caution flag comes out to slow us down for the first time this evening early here on lap number 6.
They get a second look at the replay. It was a 3-wide situation. The 8 machine had some sort of an issue coming out of turn 2. That was Adam Gilliland. Was slow on the bottom. Most drivers didn't have much of an issue working around him, and then at that point, they ended up 3 wide. I think Busa tried the transition to the middle/bottom, and I think that maybe the 8 spooked the 39 a little bit. Johnson lifted early. There was contact there, and it was heavy contact. Both of those cars take a good lick, and they're both going to limp down to the pit lane. Early yellow here at Dover.
And for Philip Diaz, I mean, how lucky can you get? I mean, that was maybe at best half of a foot between the rear spoiler of Philip Diaz's number 94 and the wreck that was going on behind. And it did only manage to collect 2 vehicles. That had the opportunity to really take on 3 or 4. Tyler Hill ended up picking up some damage from that. But yeah, Matt Busa and Michael J. Johnson, I'm pretty confident those guys' days are both done. Everybody, interestingly enough, we've only ran 7 laps under green. Everybody's coming down pit road.
And it is interesting because the point that I was going to make right before that yellow came out was that it is rather cool track temperatures. Only 70 trackside compared to the 69 atmospheric condition. Because it is so cloudy and overcast skies with these realistic weather settings, you would think maybe the track would be a little bit less abrasive, although a little bit less abrasive than what Dover normally is still pretty dang tough on the tires. And everybody down pit road, the 44 to the number 1 pit stall. Looks like they're going to go with right sides only for a couple. Clampett wants to stay and take 4. The 2-tire call for Novak wins pit road.
And Luza comes off in front of the 44 Clampett as well, but interesting strategy by Corey Vincent, Ray Alfala, and Bobby Zelensky. They all stay out on the racetrack. Obviously, Zelensky and Alfala were in the top 5 at the time. Maybe they thought that some of the guys behind them would stay out on the racetrack, more than one, which was Corey Vincent. We'll see how it plays out, but obviously, as you mentioned, Evan, still early in this race, and we talked to Zelensky, or you did a little bit earlier on, and he's that driver that's up into the bubble right now. He is good, but he needs to make sure that he stays there to lock himself into the Homestead Miami Speedway for the finale. The best way to do it would be to win this race tonight.
A win erases all your worries, and it is a free trip to Homestead. And again, once you get to that point, that season finale race going to be right here in just 2 weeks' time on Tuesday, October the 10th. We have seen races, including the finale from just 1 year ago, be down to the wire for the championship, but this is the first ever time that the playoffs have been a part of this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze series, and it is going to be the 4 drivers. Ray Alfala, we know, is going to be one of them. The other 3 still yet to be determined. You would have to think that, you know, the likes of lose a very comfortable spot, 26 points up and such, but you can never say never in a 42-car grid if you were to have a bad night. But that race at Homestead, 4 drivers, no bonus points, none of that matters. There's no playoff points transferring in, and I guess I was going to say there is no win and you're in, but I guess there is, Cam. If you win, you got the job done, because the highest finishing of those 4 playoff drivers in 2 weeks' time gets the $10,000 check and a NASCAR title.
Yeah, absolutely. We basically saw the same situation last year between Ray Alfala and PJ Sturgis. This year we get to double that, and we get 4 drivers that are all going to be in the that final playoff push at Homestead. And if anything, we've seen Homestead Miami Speedway manages to deliver fantastic racing year in, year out. That's why it's on the end of the schedule. And I personally, I can't wait, but we got to get through Dover first. And already, interesting enough, everyone coming in getting tires. Tires sort of fade away fairly quickly here, but we'll have to see. Lights go out on the pace car. How everybody that didn't take tires, that's your front 3 cars, are going to go.
And Novak, who won the race off of the pit lane, went with the 2-tire call. He is 4th position for this one. The driver who was the first off on the 4-tire call, the 44 of Logan Clampett, who was in that number 1 pit stall, lines up for this restart in the number 6 position. So I believe it's going to be no tires for 1, 2, and 3. 2 tires for 4 and 5, and then 4 tires from there on back. Maybe somebody like a Michael Conti, who jumped up from 24th to 10th, may have taken 2 tires, and that call may just get lost in the fray of things, but at least up front, that's breaking down who is on what strategy, and we're going to get a good look here at just how important tires are going to be if there's a big difference between those with fresh Goodyear Eagles and those who did not get them after only 6 laps. I can promise you it is going to be a busy night down on the pit lane, something that ended up being a determining factor and who put it in victory lane just 2 weeks ago. But Bobby Zelensky is going to get his turn up front, and he's going to set sail as the green flag flies. Chatted with him post-race about his 3-point advantage, and he's out in front now for the first time to turn 1, leading that time by and leaving a fight for second behind.
Vincent was able to get into the hole that the leader left. but now Ray Alfala on the outside will take that run and move it to second. Novak will go to the outside and move to third. We saw him try to make a run for the lead on Clampett before that last caution flag came out. He was using the outside line before that yellow flag flew, and now he'll try to do the same on Ray Alfala. Ryan Luza behind will move up one more spot and close in on this battle for second.
You can see just how slow those two side-by-side were. Luza came charging off of corner 2. He immediately goes to the outside, as well as to the race lead goes Zach Novak, new race leader at lap number 13. The other driver on the two-tire call, Luza, looking to follow suit, get up to P2. Alfala's not going to give up on the inside, but he can only do so much, and he will now drop back to third. And here comes the 44 for fresh tires, trying to snag third.
Yeah, and actually, it'd be a little hard to believe with how much of a jump Bobby Zalenski got. He's actually the one that's leading, so it's the leader of the pack currently is Zach Novak. But you know what, though? That last lap, Zach Novak, after making that pass, it wouldn't be too long, I don't think, perhaps until he might be the leader of this race, because his last lap was about 0.2 seconds quicker, and he is closing like a shark in water already on the rear of Bobby Zalenski. Now, of course, these guys didn't manage to come in and get tires, so Zach Novak perhaps a little bit quicker, but we'll see how long this lasts. Perhaps those tires, they seem to wear off fairly quickly. I was talking with Bobby Zalenski, that number 83 car, just before the race, and he said maybe about 15 laps you got on these tires before the handling characteristics start changing. That's where Zalenski is at on his tires. Novak, well, he's halfway there. He's probably going to pull to the inside or the outside, see if he can get around fairly quickly. He's got the speed. Let's see if he can do it.
The Infinite Creative Solutions Toyotas like the top tonight. Zalenski going to slide up and shut the door. A reverse slide job, if you will, to make a defensive move at a turn number 2 to shut the door. Zach Novak gave him a shot to the back end, and the battle for the race lead going to continue. This is going to bring Luza into this battle. Again, the two drivers second and third at the moment. Made rather quick work on Ray Alfala, who had no fresh tires. Zalenski, no fresh tires either, but may have a small advantage of being out in front and having the clean air, but it really looks like Novak is not in any scenario to force his way to the bottom. He's been liking the top side. The 83 goes up to take that line away. Crossover down to turn number 1, and smooth in 1 and 2 is Zach Novak, and he'll pay the favor back right up in front of Zalenski as he takes the race lead.
Novak had such a clean run off the corner to take that inside line away from the 83 of Zalenski and take the lead right here. New leader Zach Novak, completion of lap 19, and begins to pull away by 2 lengths over car number 83. We'll see from behind if the one of Ryan Luza or anybody else can make the move on the 83. The 83, the attitude of the 83 car off that corner just looked a little bit mean. The one car going to sweep to the inside here. Ryan Luza going to go side by side and try to take it away from the 83 of Zalenski, but it looks like here, at least these last couple laps, Evan, the 83 has had his hands full.
He's definitely been working that wheel, and he's in a pretty good position, still second. Luza, who's been all over him and who has the same tires as Novak, you would assume is going to be able, once he gets side by side with Zalenski, to get that spot. Luza goes to the bottom of the racetrack and to be able to get the job done. Again, Zalenski just needs a solid finish, but his fate is up in the air. We keep talking about spoilers. A spoiler would be the best thing for Bobby Zalenski, Cam, because that means there would be no new race winner. If somebody from below the top 4 right now, Vincent, Richardson, Novak, and Challoner, were to win, Zalenski's P4 is no longer 4th. That becomes 5th, and then he's at an 8-point deficit to Clampett, who, being only 1 spot behind him, would get that spot. So again, Zalenski doing what he needs to do now, but with Novak currently leading this race, not in a transfer spot as they run.
No, but this is interesting, though, because you've got your front 5 cars are all in the playoffs, and then you've got Christian Challoner way in the back in 31st. I mean, he started 20th. He is not really having a good day in the traffic. Might be conserving that car, so you might not know what that number 78 Toyota does. But he seems to be having some troubles near as Chris Shearburn's even looking to get on his inside. As Chandler, he's finding himself in traffic, not the day he's going to want to have, but literally everybody else in the playoffs is up front. Bobby Zalenski now fighting back on Logan Clampett as they're going past the start-finish line and into 1 and 2, but Logan Clampett, no surprise here, should have the position coming off the corner.
He had the position need, but didn't have the run off of the turn, and Zelensky's able to power back down the back straightaway and to be able to maintain in front. This is where, though, Zelensky's going to have to hope that everybody else's tires now falling off is starting to balance back out with his. You see the two of Alfala just a little bit further back, having Alan Bose to go to the inside. The number 21 Toyota, again, bottom of the racetrack, better car, fresher tires, just can't get the bite off the turn and has to tuck back up in line. Really getting that run off of the 24 degrees of banking so far tonight, very critical.
Alan Bose gets a run on Ray Alfala in the 2. Alfala came close to getting the wall off corner number 4. A little bit of a bobble for the Ford as the Alan Bose number 21 takes that peek to the inside. They come off of corner number 2, and car number 21 of Bose just can't get that run on that inside line to complete that pass. Behind them, PJ Sturgis, Jake Sturgis, a part of this battle as well. Then it's a little ways back to Corey Vincent, who's a part of this championship fray. Alan Bose, though, determined to make that pass on the inside. He might have it here if he can get the run up off corner number 2. Clears the 2 in the middle of the corner. He'll have it. The 2 of Alfala not able to get back at him.
Winner this season from Texas makes the pass for 5th position. Alfala might lose to the 57, really tight. PJ Sturgis tried to get up in front of the 2 of Alfala. Those are 2 very familiar names to one another, very different context tonight than they were at this point in the season 1 year ago. That was almost terrible, and Alfala wanted nothing to do with it, got hard on the brakes and backed out of that.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to say that he's just trying to save the day. Obviously, we're only 30 laps into this 200-lap event, but you know what? Why risk it? And really, why risk it at this point? No point in needing to. We've already had one caution very early on. That kind of sets the tone. Will we be seeing more of these cautions? That battle between Zelensky and Clampett seems to come to a head every single time I managed to get onto the microphone here. But you know what, though? Zelensky on that outside line, he's going to continue to keep it. And actually, Clampett now getting pressure from Alan Bose. Could Bose play the spoiler? And we have a caution out on the track.
He was setting up for it, and there's a spinner on the front. Joe Letterello, and the number 33 Chevrolet is around second time. We have a caution to flag here tonight at lap number 30, and one was a little bit of assistance. Looked like turn number 4. Letterello got tagged by that 66 of Blake Reynolds, who also went for a ride.
Yeah, tough break for both of those, but I'm sure they'll be down pit road, maybe get some adjustments to those race cars, and maybe get some of that virtual sheet metal pulled out and back onto the racing surface. But Zach Novak up in front is your leader as the field will work by the back straightaway, and it looks like the 66 and 33 cars that were just involved in that yellow flag will pull in right behind the pace car and right in front of the leader Novak. So I would expect all these guys to come down pit road on this one. We'll see where everybody shakes out. And Evan, I don't think there's going to be any strategy here. I would almost anticipate everybody taking 4.
We saw the 2-tire calls by the likes of Alfala and other drivers. Zelensky actually does a pretty good job of maintaining 3rd, but Alfala dropped a couple down to 8th position. I don't think you could afford, especially considering how big of a difference we saw in 6 laps, almost twice, if not 3 times as long of a run on that most recent little green flag stint, that you would have to come down and go with the 4-tire call. Let's see if anybody, though, is able to make some passes on the pit lane, even if they are all on the same strategy. Hill, Novak loses Zelensky. The order they come down to the pit lane in. The 4 was just down as of the last time by, but race leaders head into the pit boxes. Novak going to go right side tires up, but again, full anticipation, Cam, as it is going to be a 4-tire call for them. Looks like everybody in agreement that you need the fresh rubber. Race off of pit road in favor of the 15.
Yeah, Logan Clampett, I think he lost a couple of positions there. Alan Bose, though, he wanted it to gain, just didn't happen. Ray Alfala, he's finding himself behind Jake Sturgis, unless he managed to get that position. Actually, he did. So it'll be Ray Alfala just behind PJ Sturgis. I don't think there's any too terrible surprises. Everybody in the 14-second bracket except for Mitchell Hunt, who did a 13.9, but you know what? I think everyone just wanted to make sure they got a good pit stop. You're obviously rolling into those corners. Some of the pit stalls are on the corners, so everyone's got to make sure they have a good pit stop. It's a good thing to do it under yellow. Get them ready just in case we get to a green flag pit stop. But at this point, though, well, we've had 2 cautions and 2 full runs down pit lane. Wouldn't be too surprised if perhaps we don't start seeing these yellows start being a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more frequent as the laps start ticking down.
Jimmy Hill is going to have stayed out, something that we see him do a lot and gets the bonus point. He now does bring that car back down to the pit lane. It'll cycle the race lead back up to Zach Novak. You do see that he is the second driver in line behind the number 33 machine at the moment. That is Joe Lorello, who is waiting for a wave by if he wants to be able to maintain his position of running on the lead lap back, and looks like what currently is scored as 38th position. Something else that we should note that we're going to try to work in over the course of tonight is going to have opportunities to hop on with the driver of the number 71 machine. Mitchell Hunt is running in 9th position at the moment, and we have access to his team radio. So over the course of the night, we will jump in at moments with him, and you'll be hearing, of course, the driver of the number 71 Mitchell Hunt, along with Nicholas Morse, his spotter, and his crew chief, and also Jacob Harper's the car chief for their Start and Park Express team on the radio. We'll be doing that a couple of times tonight, so we will let you know when we will, but we do have live audio with the driver of the number 71 and his team, who rides in 9th position at the moment. So something cool that we'll be bringing to you over the course of the night. Tim, the race really just got underway, though I know that we've already seen 2 cautions, but 200 laps, a long way to go. 34 laps, though, quickly behind us.
Yeah, and Mitchell Hunt, as you mentioned, the 71, in and around some of those championship contenders. Ray Alfala just in front of him, or will be on the inside for the restart, and behind, I believe, the 10 of Corey Vincent. Going to start on the outside of him as we get ready to double up and go back to green flag competition. So there's a lot of those championship contenders up in front. The one that I don't see, we mentioned a little bit earlier about Chalner, and actually Marcus Richardson is back in 25th place as well, along with Chalner back in 26th position. So those 2 drivers not having the night that they want to thus far, but as you mentioned, Evan, it's still early, but with a lot of these championship contenders running up front, trying to lock themselves into that final playoff race, they might need to start getting to stepping.
Zach Novak, a driver who has won this season, came into tonight 30 points in the red as he sits now as your race leader. He would be one of the 4 drivers getting a golden ticket to Homestead. There is still a long way to go, and the immediate 3 positions behind him, Zelensky, Luza, Clampett, going to make up the entirety of the front 2 rows, all also playoff drivers looking for a win that would automatically get them into the championship. The pace car is down and in. The 15 looks for another good restart, and he gets it as we go back underway. The 15 clear for the top spot. Zelensky should be able to hang on to P2. The fight's going to be for 3rd.
Yeah, as good of a jump as Zelensky had that last restart, Novak has gotten this time by, so we'll see here. Everyone is on the same tire strategy now, though, courtesy of that caution flag, so wouldn't be too surprised if we don't see the strong cars starting to pull up front rather than just the cars that have the newest tires. So we'll see what that number 15 can do. Lap time's coming in. Everybody is just about straight and narrow. Alan Bowes is side by side with PJ Sturgis, as Ray Alfala, he manages to get a big run onto the inside of PJ Sturgis, as these are the first front-running guys that are running side by side. Everyone's sort of just trying to get themselves sorted in. They're trying to get comfortable into a rhythm.
And they'd all gotten single file until Bose wanted to cross up the 44. It looks like it is going to be a short-lived battle for 4th. The 21 to the inside slides up on turn number 2, and he's got that position. So Clampett going to fall back 1 into the number 5 spot. All of this, though, behind Zach Novak, who with another good restart sits a half a second to the advantage, and now 7/10. A lot quicker that lap than Zelensky P2 in front of the field.
Alan Bowes still on the move as he passed that number 44. Clampett closes in on Ryan Luza for position number 3. They continue to dance down through corners number 3 and 4. And you look back through this pack, it's single file for at least the time being, all the way back to about Brian Schoenberg and Nolan Scott at about 13th place. But it's just a matter of trying to pick your passes. We saw it on the restart with PJ Sturgis. He tried to make that move on Alan Bowes, shoved it down to the inside, and couldn't get the run off the corner. So it's about a matter of picking your passes right now, at least early on this restart.
And still very tightly condensed at the top 5 or 6 runners or so. Bose, Clampett, Sturgis all within just 3/10 of each other. No battle ongoing at the moment, but when you got somebody less than half a car length off someone's bumper, you can't help but to feel that something is going to happen at some point. These drivers especially know at a place like Dover, it's going to get really difficult to pass over the course of those runs as these tires start to really fall off. And you see a side-by-side fight for 3rd now. Alan Bose looking to pick up a 2nd spot off for the restart. Not as good in the center that time, and Lucy going to be able to defend topside.
Yeah, good running up front. In the back a little bit, though, Marcus Richardson and Christian Chalnier not as continuing to not have the best entry to this race. Marcus Richardson, he's moved himself up. He's up to 23rd after starting in 30th. And Christian Chalnier, he's gone down from 20th to 28th. That 01 machine, he's looking to maybe perhaps slowly move his way through the field. I think he's going to be kicking himself, though, for having qualified well, poorly would be one word, but just so low in the ranks. As here comes to the inside Andrew Fash as they almost look to go 3 wide. A playoff contender not wanting to go 3 wide, 43 laps in their 300-lap event, but at some point, Evan Richardson's going to want to start moving up to the front. Same thing with Chalnier.
Yeah, he's not in the same position as Christian Challenger, who came into tonight 34 points back. The driver of Challenger basically has to win if he wants to get in. Richardson in a completely different scenario. It was 6th in the points, yes, but only 4 points out of a transfer spot. He needs to get up there because the drivers in front of him are all running top 5 at the moment. So we'll keep an eye on that 01 machine as the night goes on. Again, it is easy to identify those playoff drivers by both that blue Pecan Antifreeze windshield banner on the front of their cars as well. Their name is going to show up blue at the top of your screen on the ticker as it constantly runs through the running order over the course of this race. So that's a check in with the guys funded back outside of the top 20. Funding still going on inside of the top 10. And single file it back out for the moment. A little bit behind the top 10, side by side. It looks like 14th position, Nolan Scott to take one away from Bordeaux. Bordeaux going to go for the crossover as they come side by side to one.
They battle back there for that position. The 04 trying to roll the inside line, and the 40 of Jimmy Mullis trying to follow him through as they come up at a corner number 4. Had a little bit of a change, or almost a change, between Ryan Luza and Alan Bowes. Bowes was to the inside of the 1, just couldn't make that move happen. And that's been the story about the last 10 laps for Alan Bowes. Bowes gets a run, he goes to the inside, just cannot get the run off the corner to complete the pass. Then he has to go back and set up again, reel the car back in, and then try to do it again, only to be thwarted for that position one more time. Alan Bowes right now in position number 4, trying to reel back in. Ryan Luza to see if he can make a move.
Bowes almost got those 2 spots off for the race started. Now caution, a flag is out at lap 48. It is Will Cooley in the number 25. Heavy damage in turn 3.
Yeah, and I think I'd seen this starting to kick off a couple of laps ago. Casey Tucker and Will Cooley, they were really playing with each other lap after lap, and when we were looking at Richardson, and it just ended up Casey Tucker, he just found himself on corner exit. Just the slightest of bumps to Will Cooley's rear bumper really ruined his acceleration off the corner. Once that started happening and started making contact with it, Will Cooley ended up putting it into the wall, kept it out of the line of traffic, which is a great thing to do, but at great cost to that number 25 machine.
And that's not the only piece of contact we saw at turn number 2 tonight. We've seen a couple of guys almost pull again that slide job, or even a reverse slide job, where the guy defending actually moves up and basically blocks that driver from utilizing the top. But in that one, those drivers were not side by side at any point. It just looked like Tucker was tired of getting blocked.
And you sometimes have that emotion run over. This is not necessarily a short track, it's a 1-mile racetrack, but with the high banks, kind of acts like that way, kind of a characteristic. Trying to come off the corner, you have that very tight battle, and sometimes that does happen, and the tempers do overflow, and it ends up with bent bumpers. Zach Novak bringing the field down onto pit road here at the completion of lap number 50, 1/4 distance in this one, and it looks like at least one car will stay out, Evan. Adam Gilliland will stay out to lead a lap.
He gets the bonus point already, so he is more than welcome. The pin as that the next time by would have been the same strategy we saw Timmy Hill execute to take a bonus point on the last cycle to caution flag service, but race leaders are down. Everybody is gone, at least on the last one, in agreement that 4 tires is the call to make. Novak gonna go rights and lefts as well. He looks to lead off for the pit lane for the 3rd consecutive time. Drag race, and he is gonna come close. The 43 might have got it. No, looks like Novak is barely going to hang on as Bobby Zelensky put up everything he could handle and just had to settle for second off of the pit lane, with Duval coming up in 3rd position off of pit road. Big gains for the driver of the 42, who went with 2 tires only.
Yeah, an 8.7-second pit stop for that number 4, Dylan Duval. I could have swore that Bobby Zelensky would have had it, but it just wasn't in the cards. Zach Novak ends up getting away with it just with a hair's breadth.
As we work under the caution, see if we can catch up with the driver of the number 2 machine on the radio. Ray Alfalo runs in 7th at the moment. Ray, you got us?
Yep.
Thanks for taking the time to chat. You guys are running top 10. I guess first off, we should say happy to have you back after the hiatus as of 2 weeks ago, and you got everything back situated once again. You're into Homestead. Everybody in front of you is not, and it's Dover. This is going to be a physical race. It's been physical to this point. What are you guys looking to gain out of this one?
Well, I'm just kind of looking to protect Bobby for now. You know, it's funny, everybody around here is in contention, so we almost had a wreck off 2 there with Luza and Bose. So, I don't know, it's just nice to race without pressure.
Obviously, having that win in a win would not benefit you anymore. Obviously, you'd like to add to a series best career wins total, but there's no additional bonus points on the line and such. So does that almost give you permission to be a little bit more on the risque side of the strategy and to maybe try something that you wouldn't necessarily do, given that there's really no consequence?
Well, maybe. I still got to keep it clean. I don't want to like affect somebody else's chances either. Just, you know, looking right now to help the 83 and, you know, and not really mess up anybody else.
Well, he's in a good spot right now, but he almost snagged the lead off of pit lane that time. We'll let you get back to the team radio. Ray, the sponsors, the shout-outs. Who do you want to say hi to?
Virtual Racing School on the 83 and the 2.
And they're both inside of the top 10. That's Ray Alfalo, who runs in 7th at the moment. Talking about Bobby Zelensky, who also has VRS on the hood of his Ford Fusion, who's on the outside of the front row. So side by side, they come across the start-finish line this time. Lights out on top of the pace car. Zach Novak looks for another good jump.
Yeah, we're going to see what happens here on this restart. You talked to Ray Alfalo there, starting in position number 7. He's got a front row seat for what's going to happen in front of him. Usually the leader hops out to a quick jump, then everybody else fights in behind. And oh, by the way, watch Dylan Duval. Qualified in 13th, but those 2 tires going to restart in 3rd. This might be a good R&D session per se, Evan, to what might happen a little bit later on if we get a caution near the end.
In this run, most recently, a little bit shorter than what we saw in the run prior, a little bit longer, though, than what we saw the first time. So, again, drivers maybe not yet committed to having to go with a 4-tire call. I think at the end of the day, as long as Dylan Duval doesn't fall to 13th, at which he was running at the moment of caution flag, then at the end of the day, the strategy is all works out towards the end of it, and he will be in a good position. But it could mean an interesting restart for the rest of the drivers inside of the bottom row, including Alan Bose, who got out of the gate quick last time. We'll see what he does back for row number 3. Novak in control once more to the American Ethanol green flag. Another clean restart, hitting his marks to turn number 1 as he maintains the lead. The 83 is Zelensky to P2, and Luza slices for 3rd.
Yeah, it looks to me like Novak, that jump is just getting a little bit less and a little bit less, but you know what? The overall pace from that number 15 Toyota Camry has been as such that every single time there's a little bit of a green flag run, that car is able to pull a gap lap after lap after lap just by a hair's breadth again and again, and Zelensky will end up having to defend himself from Ryan Luza at some point, unless that 83 car can get it angled out. The side-by-side action between Dylan Duval and basically the entire rest of the top 10 field, because Dylan Duval, those 2 tires are not working out at all. He is falling back hand over fist lap after lap.
And a 21 clears him for that position, so Bo's going to be able to pick up a spot nonetheless, but he does end up back 1 off for the restart, as inspected that inside of the 3rd lane was not the place to be, and unlike the last time in which he went forward when this restart, he goes back 1. Not out of it yet. Look at the line between the 1, the 44, the 57, and the 21. A 4-way battle inside of the top 10 as he goes to the bottom of the racetrack, trying to get around Sturgis. The 57, though, topside should be able to defend, especially as we've seen tonight with that big run out of the corner.
And the 21 had a head of steam to get to the inside of the 57, but we've seen this a couple of times, Evan. The 21 will get to the inside and is just not able to complete the pass because he can't get the run up off the corner, but just enough there to clear the 57 to PJ Sturgis. And now we'll look up at Logan Clampett and Luza for positions number 3 and 4 respectively. 57 took a look back to the inside of the 21, but look at the run the 21 gets right here. Pulls away by about a half length from the 57 and sucks right up to the 44 of Logan Clampett. Alan Bose, that car in the middle off, looks good, especially through 3 and 4.
Looks really good. I think he just needs some green flag laps to be able to do something with it. Right up to the bumper of clamp at this time. Not there, but he does dive down to the corner. And it looks like the 44 goes high to let him by. So Alan Bowes almost uncontested for that position. Is able to now work his way back up to right where he was before the yellow in fourth. And now sets his sights on Ryan Luza like these guys are standing still. And again, Dover, we've said it time and time again. And we will continue to pound this point through over the course of the night. Camp very abrasive on tires. You have to wonder if the 21's so quick off for the restarts here because everybody else a little bit timid on driving it that hard.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've gathered here from talking to some of the drivers, you got about 15 good laps. I think I mentioned that already. The tires go well before the fuel in the tank. You can run 80 laps on gas. If you're doing a green flag stint, I think some people were planning maybe in the 50s, maybe in the 60s, maybe in the 70s range even, as far as getting the tires to run out. But we haven't seen anything in the first, I'd say, 100 laps almost to... almost getting to that point. We're on lap 62 of 200. That we're not going to be having a relaxation of these cautions. So perhaps if you could just plan to have these cautions, why not just go for it? Why not be aggressive on the tires? Zelensky's still covering from Ryan Luza. Ryan Luza finding himself with Alan Bowes on the inside. Meanwhile, and for Alan Bowes, it's almost looking like out of the entirety of the field, he's going to be one of the only cars that might be able to contest against Zach Novak. But you know what, though? He's not one of the playoff drivers. Could he play that spoiler we were talking about?
It would almost be in favor of Bobby Zelensky, who runs at a P2 at the moment, that if Luza gets to his, if Luza gets passed up by Bowes and Bowes gets to his back bumper, to let the 21 go, because again, with the win and you're in a format as Zach Novak runs at the moment, he would make it to the championship, climb it out of a 30-point deficit, and would head to Homestead. That would then drop Luza down to third in the points. That would drop Clampett down to fourth, and that means that Bobby Zelensky, who runs P2 at the moment, would not qualify into the championship. If we see a new first-time winner from outside of the top four, he has to beat Clampett by 9 positions. Clampett's only 4 behind him, so as they run, Bobby Zelensky's P2, but not into Homestead. So again, these are the things that he needs to be relying on his crew to be feeding to him.
And on the other side of it, too, you look at Ryan Luza. Ryan Luza comes in 26 points to the good. You mentioned it off the top of the show. Mathematically, is not safe. Realistically, he's going to have some help to fall backwards a little bit. We almost saw it a little bit earlier with that scare between himself and the 21 of Alan Bowes, but Ryan Luza comfortably in position number 3, and you just saw a little bit of a bobble from Alan Bowes that last lap by the 21 trying to reel in the 1 and trying to get position number 3. But Evan Cam mentioned you get about 15 to 20 or so laps of good running in these tires. Our longest green flag run has been around 20 laps here tonight, and we're closing in on eclipsing that mark here now. So maybe did Alan Bowes run off the good on these tires, and maybe he's trying to salvage something here, hoping that he gets a caution?
As we continue to work on, we'll start to get into the territory of being on our longest green flag stretch of the night. So the stats would say that, yeah, sure, we're going to see yellows over the course of this race, but there's always a point, and it's typically about now, towards the middle, where a race goes a little bit more green than it had up until that point. You get yellows early. Guys haven't had an opportunity, despite all the practice they put in, to race with 40 cars, to feel what old tires are like in a 2 and 3 wide battle. And also, oh, there you go. Caution flag is out right at lap number 70. And it's a spinner in turn 3 with the 05 of Nick Ottinger.
You managed to jinx it. This one actually involving Marcus Richardson, and it was Nick Ottinger coming off of the corner. He ended up finding the left rear quarter panel of that Heisenfeld machine, and I don't think it did any damage to that 01, but a bit of a scary moment for Marcus Richardson. Nick Ottinger, after that, has spinning out to the inside, giving himself a hearty amount of damage on the front and rear of that Toyota Camry.
And it is an extremely fortunate break for the Owen Richardson, because as you saw in the second look there, anytime you get contact into the left rear quarter panel, it does not typically end well for you, especially at a self-cleaning racetrack. For the playoff driver, he is okay, far from the outcome for Nick Ottinger, who got the inside wall heavy contact on the 05 as he will limp to the pit lane, led by Zach Novak. Everybody in once more for what we expect to be 4 tires again.
Yeah, we'll see if anybody pulls a Dylan Duval like he did on the last stop and take 2 tires. Duval was in the top 10. Mission accomplished. He gained some track position on that move, but I'm not sure if anybody's going to do it here, as it looks like 4 tires up in front.
It was a good race off of the pit lane last time. The 83 digging again, and once more just shy of being able to beat Zach Novak off for the race lead in what would be a critical spot on the restart. Would have him an opportunity to pull way out in front of everybody else. Isn't able to get it that time. It's going to be Novak, Zelensky, Luza, Bose, and Clampett leading off of pit road. Your top 5. I don't think that's any changes.
No, and just looking at the times, once again, everybody's pit times are right there with each other, so nobody's making mistakes going into the pit lane here at Dover. Everyone's hitting their marks. That's what you want to see. Zach Novak, one of these times, Zelensky's going to get him, but hopefully, and I do say this, hopefully, we won't have this constant competition with the pit lanes, with the pit teams. Of course, it's exciting, but we'd like to get some green flag action, I'm sure. But you know what, though? Our last caution was on lap 48. So we're on lap 70 when the last one came out, so we had a pretty decent run that time. And I think it's pretty safe to say Zach Novak right now, he's the one with a hot rod. Nobody has anything for that number 15 car.
And he remains perfect on the pit lane. A self-inflicted error down here would really hurt him. We've seen a couple of drivers this season to make mistakes on pit lane. It ends up making a very fast race car futile because you get a penalty that either drops you to the back or a drive-through penalty, and it basically takes yourself out of this one. But we are pacing at lap number 72. This opening portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Peak Antifreeze and Coolant, the official antifreeze of NASCAR and a proud sponsor of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, powered by iRacing. We mentioned it a little bit earlier on in the evening for those of you who tuned in with us for the NASCAR iRacing Pro Invitational race right here from Dover International Speedway. NASCAR drivers in the likes of Denny Hamlin, Chris Bell, Ben Kennedy, along with Justin Allgaier were in that one, but it was Parker Klickerman who took home the checkered flag, and during that one we mentioned an opportunity to win pit passes for a 2018 NASCAR race here at Dover. You can enter that contest by logging on to doverspeedway.com/sweepstakes. Enter in your email address, your first and last name, and your favorite driver, and you can be entered into a contest to win pit passes to a 2018 race weekend here at Dover International Speedway. Again, that's open to everybody as long as you follow the contact rules and submissions at doverspeedway.com/sweepstakes. So with that being said, we're only on the doorstep of the halfway point. We get another run like we did the last time. We'll be at Cross Flags. 73 laps complete from Dover, and we're going to take a restart with a 15 in control for a 4th consecutive time. It appears that Zach Novak has had this under control. Has Zelensky, has Luza, has anybody picked anything up at a 15 and can challenge him this time?
I think you got to watch the 21 of this restart, Evan. The 21 of Alan Bose has been quick, especially in the first 10 to 15 laps of a run. If he can get himself clear from that outside line, keep an eye on that number 21 because he seems to like the inside too.
We're going to ride on the board with that number 21 machine of Alan Bose, who's going to be to the outside of row number 2, but Zach Novak, absolutely no hesitation as the green flag flies once again. He's cleared by a competent car length. Zelensky still able to maintain P2. He hasn't really seen a challenge off of a restart. The fight is going to be for 3rd, and Luza on the inside slides up and maintains as Bose gives him a shot down the back.
Yeah, and for Luza, he actually was a little close coming to that green. Bose had to just go a little bit more evasive than I think he would have liked, and that perhaps is why Luza was able to really get that position, and actually not only just get that position, but start pulling on Zelensky, and he's actually getting a very good run, that number 1 car on Zelensky. Will he dive to the inside? No, he won't. I almost think he just gave a shot to the rear of that Ford Fusion of Bobby Zelensky, but everything looking fairly straightforward now. Zach Novak, he's got no worries. All he has got is the track and himself. Of course, all the lap cars now sorted out behind him. All he has to do is focus on lap times, and we've seen time and time again that car is absolutely lightning quick, and it's pretty much Zach Novak and the rest of the field. I think I've said this 3 or 4 times now, but my goodness, is that red Toyota fast.
In single file all the way back till Nolan Scott, the number 16 machine. Under attack by her, stays in front up top, and it goes to the inside on Schoenberg. So a crossover high to low is going to net the number 16 machine a spot inside of the top 10 as he clears the Pro Geek 4 that time to 1 and 2. So Nolan Scott try to work his way up inside of the top 10 for the first time tonight. Let that not take anything away from Brian Schoenberg, who still by dropping 1 spot to 11 is plus 18 on the night. Tim, your biggest mover.
And just behind him, his teammate Michael Conti in car number 5 trying to stick handle that peak Ford number 5. And Jimmy Mullis, Byron Daly trying to make a move, Cody Bias. There's some names that we haven't mentioned a whole lot this evening, Evan, riding just outside the top 10 right now, trying to make something happen. Top 10 or so, a single file, all the way back to about that battle around Michael Conti. A couple of guys trying to pick their moves. Ray Alfala gets a great run off corner number 2. Moves to the inside of the 57 of PJ Sturgis. Tries to get that inside line to work through 3 and 4. Thinks Sturgis is going to have the run here off corner number 4.
And it has been so far tonight very easy for drivers to get to the inside because there appears to be no incentive to really block that lane. Sure, you'd rather just not go side by side with somebody, but if they get down to your bottom of the racetrack, if it's somebody who you're comfortable with and you've raced around and you're not really afraid that they're going to push up and fence you by squeezing you up high on the quarter exit, not really in any hurry to take away the bottom from them because the outside is the place to be. You see this time at 1 and 2, even though single file drivers enter a lot high and then they swipe low to the bottom, try to maximize that run they get coming off of the turn, and that's why the top has been able to put up such stubborn rebuttals so far tonight to side-by-side battles.
Yeah, and as Tim was saying earlier, this almost races like a short track, but it is a mile long. I mean, you got to remember, it might look a bit more like short track action, but these cars are hitting about 181 mile an hour with Zelensky going into corner number 2, or corner number 3, but for these cars, they're going very, very quick. Of course, you would expect short track action, not necessarily the aero, to be that important. Unlike here at the mile, we've got a lot of downforce, and between the differences in banking between the actual corners themselves and the banking on the straights, there's just enough of a difference to just lighten that load at the downforce on the front side, just enough to really start unsettling these cars as the tires get worn and as people get a little bit happier on the throttle on corner exit, trying to perhaps catch the cars in front. So I think that might be why we're seeing some cars, what ended up happening, we've seen a couple of incidents where the cars behind is actually pushes into the car in front, and that will bring out the yellow by spinning the car in front. It's almost like these guys, they're playing with that throttle, trying to find the sweet spot because it just gets a little bit light on corner exit. Zach Novak not having an issue with that, Bobby Zelensky not having an issue with that, and Ryan Luza not having an issue with that. The 3 of them are pulling away, and they're actually going to be dealing with some lap traffic of Michael Johnson if anything keeps going like this.
And they both have about equidistance between the two of them, almost a half a second between first and second, and then also between second and third. So you don't necessarily have to put yourself in a dangerous position to clear lap traffic. Dover is a track, though, again, not a short track at a mile in length, but if you get a green flag run, especially to green flag pit stops, lap traffic is a big deal. We haven't seen a run that long so far tonight, so we don't know if Zach Novak has a car that is good after 30 or 40 laps, but he's been good under the circumstances so far. You see that time he actually checks up for the 39, doesn't go to the inside on exit, waits to make the move on the inside of 1. That's the luxury of a half a second advantage out in front, is you're able to take your time and not put yourself in a compromising position.
And you see that lap car, the 39 of Michael Johnson, the 83 caught him at a bad angle. The 1 of Ryan Luza sucks right up to the back bumper of Bobby Zelensky, and now they'll battle for position number 2. And we talk about lap traffic, catching them at the right time and trying to make that move. Coming off of corner number 2, not the place that Zelensky wanted to catch Michael Johnson. Nothing Michael Johnson could do. He's trying to get out of the way of these leaders. But Zelensky and Luza about to put on a show for position number 2. Alan Bowes a little ways behind them and a little ways ahead of Logan Clampett. But there they go for second, and it looks like Ryan Luza going to take that position down into corner number 1. We'll see if Zelensky can get a run back at him.
And again, based on where they run into points, Ryan Luza comes into tonight in a comfortable position. Second, if Luza is to go on and win this race, he basically stays second on the points grid. And I think that Zelensky, again, not to overanalyze every single move, Cam, but at least if that was me, Zelensky wants the one to pass the 15 right now. If Zelensky finishes third, he needs Luza to beat Novak or he is not in the championship race. So I have to think that he recognized that, saw the one was pressuring, and also thought that it was no need for him to overwork his tires. Let Luza go on by, let that one machine do the 83's work for him.
Yeah, you know, I would have thought that perhaps they were just going to be racing to the race. You know, I don't think anyone would have been thinking about that. But when we interviewed Ray Alfala during one of those cautions, and he mentioned that, you know, he's working his race to kind of protect Bobby, and I went, wow, these guys really are thinking about all this stuff. So yeah, totally. I mean, if we got to remember, we are almost halfway. So we've got pretty much another 118 laps to go here at Dover. So there's plenty of time. And with all these cautions, really any gap that Zach Novak, I mean, if anybody should be frustrated at all of these cautions, it should be Zach Novak, because really he's been the one that's that could be pulling out a massive gap as we watch the battle between Paige Sturgis and Rayan Alfala. Last year it was far, far more intense, but these guys still going at it.
They've had a couple of close calls and interactions tonight. Again, as I said, under very different circumstances than they did in this series 1 year ago. Dover not on the calendar in 2016. This is a racetrack, though, that has been on this series campaign 5 times in series history, dating back to 2011, and has never seen a repeat winner. Thomas Lewandowski won here back in 2011, Kevin King in 2012, Nick Ottinger in 2013, Michael Conti in 2014, and then most recently Kenny Humpy in 2015. Zach Novak looking to become a 6th different winner in 6 races, but Luza, now that he's in clear air, just keep it a half eye on the intervals. He's been a little bit quicker here and there, working the gap down to 7/10. Not within striking distance yet, but noteworthy nonetheless.
Ray Alfala able to pass PJ Sturgis to move him up to position number 6, and it looks like he's making some inroads on Logan Clampett for position number 5 at this point. Alan Bowes is closing in on Bobby Zelensky, so a couple of quick battles within the top 10, but when you're looking at those championship battles that you mentioned a little bit earlier on, as Bobby Zelensky looks underneath Nick Ottinger to put him 1 lap down, you have Marcus Richardson still outside the top 20, Christian Chalner still outside the top 20, and Corey Vincent, a little bit of damage to the rear of the Herculiner, number 10. He sits in 32nd position right now. So those 3 not having the night that they want to, but for the championship contenders up in front, makes them smile a little bit more, but we are still with 103 or so laps to go in this one.
And the fighting is not exclusive to the top 10 as we start to see folks spread out a tad bit. Battle for 11th is on. Brian Schoenberg has been there for the last couple of restarts in this one. Taylor Hurst trying to get up on him, the driver of the number 74. Most recently, the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series victory lane. Conti looking to his inside, not in the championship this year. That Blue Peak Ford Fusion, unfortunately, Conti took home a win at Michigan to close out the regular season and is looking to play spoiler over the course of the playoffs. They both work around the lap traffic, the 05 machine of a heavily damaged Nick Ottinger.
Yeah, and as the field continues to roll right on by, doesn't seem to be impeding anybody. That's exactly what you want to see. Just looking back a little ways, back to position number 20, we'll take a look at Jake Sturgis. I have to say, he was up front, he was running quickly, but he has now fallen his way back, and behind him is Marcus Richardson. Of course, one of our playoff contenders. He was involved in that incident, one of the incidents earlier on, thankfully escaping without any damage to that left rear quarter panel. Seems to be getting a very good run on Jake Sturgis, not able to do anything on it. But for Marcus Richardson, not the day I think he wants to be having. Obviously, though, he qualified in 30th, he's in 21st. If this was a normal race, you can put your hat on that. I'd say it's a pretty good day for the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, improving your position by some 10, 15 positions at the end of the race, maybe, as he goes on by Jake Sturgis. But unfortunately, this is playoff racing here, and Marcus Richardson really needs to have a good night. He needs to finish ahead of Corey Vincent, Zach Novak. Unfortunately, Novak's been leading the race. He's going to be one of the dominant guys. Somebody, however, he's not going to have to worry about. Christian Chalner, of course. Chalner only started 20th. He's back in 30th right now.
And obviously looking for a good night is Richardson. He was the driver who had the best shot of pulling the upset, being the first driver behind Vincent, only 4 points out of a transfer spot. But again, if Novak continues to run up front, then Richardson would technically be 7th in points, and then he would be no longer at a 4-point deficit, but what would end up being, I think, a 15-point deficit when you add on top of that the 11-point advantage that Clampett has over the transfer spot now. So much of this is fluid, and I think that if you're Richardson right now, you can't be too concerned about that. Anybody in the red, I think, has to just focus on running the best race they can, and then maybe seeing where the cars fall once they do. But for the guys up front, I think you're a lot more acutely aware of what's happening, and Novak's lead only down to 0.2 of a second. The driver of the 15 cannot get past if he wants to make it to the championship 4.
And it's Ryan Luza on his back bumper. This is the longest green flag run that we've had all night long. We're past the halfway point at lap 105, and when you look at Ryan Luza, he's one of those drivers that's pretty safe. We talked about that all night this evening, but as you mentioned, Novak essentially needs to win this race to lock himself into the championship. And keep in mind, oh, by the way, with Vincent and Richardson not having good runs, if that number 15 is to win, your battle is essentially between Clampett and Zielinski for that final spot, and they run within the top 5. This last half of this race, Evan, is going to be intense, and with this long green flag run, Ryan Luza is closing that gap and making it a little more interesting on Zach Novak. We complete 106.
And with the longest run working on the night, we start to count down past the halfway point in tonight's Dover 200. Let's take a look at our iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you by iRacing, the leading online racing simulation developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service. iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the globe. But in the fast-paced world of esports, iRacing is a one-stop shop for online racing with officially sanctioned series by the likes of NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, and more. At lap 108, Zach Novak is your race leader, looking to win his way to the championship 4. He leads over Ryan Luza right now. Bobby Zielinski runs exactly where he started tonight in 3rd. Alan Bowes in 4th, and Clampett at the moment, your pole sitter, in a transfer spot in P5. Ray Alfala locked already into round 2, runs in 6th at the moment. PJ Sturgis having a good night in that number 57 machine, back in old form tonight, top 10. He's got Chris Overland all over him for 8th. Dylan Duvall is 9th, and Nolan Scott rounds out your top 10.
Position number 11 belongs to Michael Conti, and he's been battling with Nolan Scott the last couple laps. Scott trying to shake him as Conti tries to make that move once again for position number 10. Keep a half eye on that one as we go forward. Cody Bias in 12th, Jimmy Mullis in 13th, and him and Marcus Richardson going at it. Richardson, I think this is the first time he's been in the top 15 all night long. He runs in 14th with Taylor Hurst in 15th. Derek Bordeaux on his back bumper. Chris Shearburn in 17th. 18th is Byron Daly, and he is being challenged by Jake Sturgis. They go side by side up off corner number 4 for position number 18. Just behind them, it's Andrew Fayash III, who's battling with David Rattler.
David Rattler completing that pass, but 22nd position goes to Ryan Lowe. He started in 40th position, the only non-qualifier still running, and he has now found himself in 22nd position. A very good day for that number 7 so far. Joe Letterello will find himself in 23rd. Philip Diaz in the 24th position, with Corey Vincent 25th. Alex Bergeron finds himself in 26th. Christian Chalnier, one of our playoff guys, he's in 27th position. He's in trouble after we got past halfway here. Jake Nichols, he's in 28th. Blake Reynolds in 29th position. Casey Tucker will be rounding out your top 30.
Continuing through in 31st position is Kenny Humpy. Brian Schoenberg is back in 32nd with Chandler Krizik 33rd. Will Cooley 34th with Timmy Hill and Adam Gilliland 35th and 36th respectively. They round out all the drivers still scored on the lead lap. 2 laps down at 37th is Nick Ottinger. Mitchell Hunt is out of this race and will get a DNF, currently scored in 38th position. So will Josh Berry 39th. Michael Johnson is still on track, but 95 laps down, heavily damaged in P40 with Tyler Hill in 41st and Matt Busa in 42nd. So look top to bottom at your iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, visit iRacing.com and sign up today. If you log on to iRacing.com/World of Outlaws, you can take advantage of some exclusive promo codes. Get yourself a 1-year iRacing subscription for over 50% off the sticker price, or if you just want to give it a try, a 3-month subscription is also available for less than $5. No time is better than now to sign up for a first-time iRacing membership, and you can find out more information by logging on to iRacing.com/World of Outlaws. And guys, as we continue to work on to the longest run on the night, Zach Novak has slowly started to balance that race lead at 0.4 of a second. Luza is still there, but we start to work ourselves close to maybe green flag pit stops. And as we continue to count down now at lap 117, this portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Herculiner Truck Bedliners, the official bedliner of NASCAR, as we look for a battle for the race lead.
Yeah, car number 1 of Ryan Luza will go to the inside of the 15 of Novak in the middle of 1 and 2, and he's been doing that the last couple laps during that midway race break. He caught right up to the back bumper of the 15 car and then fell back a little bit. I think the 1 car might be a little more consistent than the 15, but when the 15 is on and he gets his laps in and hits his marks, he's a little bit quicker than the 1, but one small little mistake brings that 15 back to the 1. Ryan Luza has just been so darn consistent here the last couple laps. I think if Ryan Luza can see one small little opening from Novak, I think he's going to take the opportunity to jump at it.
And we've been talking about tonight a lot how drivers, including this 15 at Novak early, kept going to the outside of the racetrack, the challenge, and to make a pass. Well, he's been leaving the inside open, and we've noted that, hey, that's not really a big deal. Topside's been the place to be, but we haven't seen a battle for position up front on this old of tires, and it doesn't look like Luza is at all trying to force himself to the top anytime he sees an opening, and oftentimes it's been on the bottom. He tries to stick it nose in there, and I think convince Novak that he's there. Novak cannot afford to give up the race lead, sure, but he would much rather give it up now and fight for it later than wreck himself trying to defend it. And if that 1 keeps flashing the nose, he might convince Novak that he's there and give him some space.
Yeah, last thing you would want to do is lose 2 playoff drivers, and I think both of them consider that. Of course, the tires at this point, they're getting to the point that the lap times have fallen off tremendously. We started this stint on lap number 74 quite a ways ago, as they were running 21 5s, 21 flats, 21 1s. Then they ended up creeping all the way up. We're running 23 flats now, which is quite a ways away from what we were running when they had fresh new Goodyear Eagles. So for Zach Novak, we'll see here just who is the master of these worn tires. We're almost running 50 some odd laps on in this current stint, 52 laps actually on both sets of tires. So we'll see this this lovely duel we got here between that number 15 and that number 1. Bobby Zelensky, though, he's running very similar lap times, but he's so far back, it just he's not going to be a contender in this, as the track, we got to remember, constantly rubbering in.
More so and more so as the lap goes by, and drivers starting to chat on the radio, Tim, about coming down to the pit lane under green flag conditions. Again, this remains to be the longest green flag stretch that we have seen on the night. These guys have been going at it at race speed since all the way back. It looks like lap number 73 was the last time they were down pit road, so pit stops not out of the question by any means. And if we were to pit now, might even be able to stretch this one close, if not all the way to the end, depending on what your number is.
Corey Vincent, one of those down on pit road. He is one of your championship contenders, but not having the night that he has wanted to, is outside the top 20 before he came down on his green flag stop. Your top 2 continue to stay out on the racetrack. Bobby Zelensky scored in position number 3, Logan Clampett and Alan Bowes. And Bowes actually just loses a position to Ray Alfala, or at least Ray Alfala makes the move down to the inside. Is he going to have enough to clear him? Oh, little bobble off corner number 2 for Ray Alfala. Almost bought the farm. He'll go back to working the inside. Evan, almost looked like Ray Alfala had it cleared, then had to stay to the inside and had to make a late move to try to keep off the 21.
But I think that Alfala, again, he said when we talked to him on the radio that he doesn't want to affect anybody else's race, and that includes drivers both in and out of the playoffs. This time he is clear and he will come up on Bowes. I think he was clear last time too, just wasn't certain, and then as soon as he started to walk that car up, second-guessed himself and almost spun himself out. You saw him catch it at a turn number 2. He will end up getting 5th position when it all comes to an end. Bowes does drop to P6, still waiting for a name from up front to decide to come down to the pit lane. But you figure if these guys were pitting last time at around lap number 73, Cam, they've almost gone 60 laps. We're only about 72 laps away from the end here, so only a couple more laps could split this run in half if you're banking on it going green. But for Novak to pit, and I think the short pit, just in general, get the fresh tires on sooner, tends to be the more favorable call. But it is a huge risk for him to give up that top spot and risk getting tracked a lap down.
Bordeaux is on the pits. Michael Johnson is in pit lane. But of course, you got to remember here, this is the big risk. Dover, it's extremely quick, but it is a mile circuit. You will go down 2 laps in order to do a green flag pit stop. Your pit delta, it's going to be around 47 seconds. That's a really long time, especially having to navigate the corners in pit lane, and I think it's a fairly straightforward thing to see. You got 80 laps on a fuel tank, so people who are pitting now are technically clear to the finish, but I think that the tires, they fall off to such a point at the end of the gas tank that there is absolutely no way that that car would be tenable. We're seeing just how much these guys up front are slipping and sliding around. We saw Ray Alfala. I mean, that was a pretty hefty save he had to wrangle. If he was not locked into the playoff, I would say that would be a season moment. But either way, though, you're going to start seeing these guys, once they realize that perhaps that caution flag they might be counting on isn't coming out, they're going to come in and they're going to risk coming down to the inside to the pit lane. Got to remember, though, at Chicagoland is actually, there goes your leader, Zach Novak, onto pit lane.
Big gamble. It's a tricky pit road to get onto. Looked like he got it checked up in time. Again, the concern for Novak is nothing less than a win will get him into the championship. He gives up the race lead to Ryan Luza, and it gets a head start on these guys on tires. In theory, that's the call to make, but he's going to drop a lap, no doubt, from this pit service, which is where the 15's really going to be nervous.
And we talk about on the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series circuit that they have the money stop, possibly the last stop of the race that could cost them the win. On this side, it could be a $10,000 decision for Zach Novak to come on to pit road. He doesn't win here this evening. Something happens on this stop. He could lose his shot at a playoff win and a championship. On the other end of pit road, it's Ryan Luza coming on in car number 1. The Fast Track Sims number 1 will slow it down to 35, and he'll come to the attention of his crew.
Just as he's in, Novak is out. It's going to be a clean stop for him, and Bobby Zelensky now assumes the race lead, followed by Logan DeClamp and Ray Alfala, 1, 2, and 3. Again, the 2 trying to help out teammate in the 83 machine, trying to be able to qualify with him into the championship. Still waiting for Bose, Conti, Overland to fall. Looks like Sturgis, Scott, and Mullis, the top 10 as they run now, to all decide to come down pit lane. The longer the green flag stretch goes on, the higher likelihood that somebody finds themselves in a tricky spot. Dover is a tough enough track as is, but when you got folks out there with fresh tires running 2 seconds faster per lap than those around them, things can get out of hand quickly. And an array of drivers on the radio saying that they'll be coming down pit road this time. Alfala in from 3rd.
Yeah, I was about to say, you make that great point. You've got to, as time goes on and more of these cars get on fresh tires, you constantly have these cars up front that are running on the old tires. 66 laps now. Pretty much everybody is running on their stint length. Here comes Zelensky. He's coming to pit lane. Massive blow up. He manages to get it down to 35, or did he? I don't know. That was a little quick coming onto pit lane for Zelensky. We'll see here what he is, if the marshals will give him anything for it coming across the line. But either way, both him and Clampett now down on pit lane. You got to remember, though, each and every time we do this, there's just more and more cars with older tires, slower tires, more and more cars with faster tires. We saw at Chicagoland a couple of cautions, I believe, from that very thing happening.
Zelensky did lock it up onto the pit lane. The 83 machine again into tonight above the cut line. Cannot afford to blow the money stop, as it could be referred to into the pit box. There is no question on this exchange that those down in the pit lane are going to go with 4 tires. Zelensky, no penalty, was able to get it slowed down in time, and he will safely leave the pit lane with a successful 4-tire stop. Everybody but the top 10 are now off for the lead lap, including 11th through 28th. We're 1 lap down. 11th position, Zach Novak, in a position that would assumingly become the top spot once all of this is sorted through. Now 8th position as we wait for those on the lead lap to come down to the pit lane. And these are the folks who want the yellow. They stay out. They hope to pick up a lot of positions. The likes of Ryan Lowe from 40th and Timmy Hill from 37th. Nothing to lose by this gamble.
And you look at your leader, Dylan Duval, in car number 42. Jake Sturgis was coming with a head of steam that last time by. Duval was on the inside line, almost like he was coming down onto pit road. He stayed out on the racetrack and almost got run over by the number 41 of Sturgis on those brand new tires. The 42 of Duval this time will come on to pit road. No harm, no foul there. He'll lock it down and get down to 35, and that will hand the lead over, I believe, to car number 78 of Christian Chalner. Keep in mind, there's a championship contender, albeit he's essentially got a win here this evening in order to get into it, but could this be a winning call staying out this late?
Just like Zach Novak, they both came into tonight over 30 points to the deficit and needing a win. Challenger maybe could have got a stroke of genius there with the yellow, but he does have to pit from the race lead. Will collect a bonus point that doesn't mean much as he gives up the top spot to now Ryan Lowe in the 7. So that Toyota Camry gets his opportunity at the lead, still waiting for Krizik, Hill, and I believe that may be it for drivers to pit, only 3 or 4 more.
Now we've got Schoenberg, who is on pit lane. You've got Hill and Krizik and Lowe. As you said, here comes Ryan Lowe. Good day for that number 7 machine. He's obviously got the pit entry box way to the back, starting in 40th position. He works himself into pit lane. That gives it to Chandler Krizik. I imagine Krizik will be coming in anytime soon, as he's got extraordinarily expedient machines on his inside and outside. Kind of a dangerous thing, actually. You try to go into pit lane and somebody going 20 mile an hour faster than you comes in on the inside, but you know what, I'm sure they will make it all work. Great to see that whole green flag pit stop come into play, and here comes Zach Novak. Now he is going to still continue to be your leader, and he is actually, I'm looking at everything right, I believe he's got quite the massive gap over Ryan Luza.
Looks like it's 6 seconds. We'll have to wait for timing and scoring to confirm this. But again, when they pitted 3 wide behind the 15, as this all looks to cycle out, when they pitted, Luza was right on the back bumper of Novak, and the 15 had to make a decision. Does he make what I think, again, is the smart strategical call at a pit early? Caution flag is out, so we'll get to that in a moment. The yellow flag flies for the 04.
The 04 of Derek Bordeaux, one of those drivers that has had an up-and-down season and was running well within the top 15. Finds some issues here for the caution flag to come out, and we're getting down to those final 50 laps. This is going to be exciting here.
Like he just got loose on his own. A second look will show you that on the RaceSpotTV replay. That brings out the yellow, and that completely negates what we were just about to talk about for Zach Novak and Ryan Luza. Novak short pitted. It's the right strategical call because he gets on fresh tires sooner, but it puts him a lap down that many laps earlier and at risk of getting trapped down there. The yellow didn't come out during the cycle. He got back to the lead lap. He had pulled 6 seconds. That is now going to be completely erased with this caution flag. But the 48 of Chandler Krizik and the 4 of Timmy Hill had yet to come down to the pit lane, and they are going to assume first and second positions. And I would expect most of your leaders who had already pitted to come back down this time for at least 2, if not 4. So the 48 going to become your race leader, and Timmy Hill rocket into second.
And coming down pit lane is Chandler Krizik. Staying out so far, it's Casey Tucker, Philip Diaz, Jake Sturgis, Jake Nichols, Taylor Hurst. Not that many coming down pit lane. I do see a red machine. That's not it is Zach Novak. Novak has come down for tires. I think that has got to be quite the bad decision. He's going to find himself well in the back, I believe. As he comes in, he gets himself a service. Will they give him 4 new tires, or will they just give him fuel? There they go. The right sides go up on his machine. But my goodness, I'm not sure if this was the grand maneuver. So many cars stayed out. Zelensky, he's coming in. Alfala has come in. So at the very least, the rest of the front runners have come down pit lane.
Novak is going to exit pit lane third. It's the same at which he entered. He is beat off of pit lane by Timmy Hill and Chandler Krizik, who also decided to go with 4 tires. Now the task becomes figuring out who did not pit is simply looking for a wave by and who is on the lead lap. And we'll get a better look at that as of the next time around. At least 10 drivers or so looking to get a wave by. Diaz, Sturgis, Nichols, Hurst, Humpy, Bergeron, Mullis, Duval, and Fayash looking to get back to the lead lap, but waiting to see who is actually going to end up as your race leader. by the time the folks cycle back around.
We'll see what happens when scoring cycles this time. Casey Tucker would have been there, I believe, but he's going to come down onto pit road on this lap. So a lot of drivers going to get the wave around. I don't think it's going to hurt those guys that came on to pit road. There was 15 of them that had the opportunity to come down onto pit road if they wanted it.
And it looks like everybody pitted, so Zach Novak is going to maintain third. Speaking of which, we have the driver of the number 15 machine on the radio. Zach, you got us?
Yeah, got you, man.
Well, I know that this is a high-pressure situation for you guys up front. The caution doesn't come out during the cycle. The pit stops almost all the way back to the front. You end up third. You get 4 tires. You're going to maintain third, knowing very well that you guys have to win this race at the rate that the guys around you lose Zelensky and Clamp and Run to be able to get to Homestead. You're third at the moment. You don't have the advantage of being the control car on this restart. The last couple times you were, you've had a great opportunity to get out in front. So what are you thinking?
Man, I'm really stressed out right now. You know, I was really happy when that whole cycle went through. I executed on pit road pretty well, and we had about 5 seconds to lose. So if that went green, I think that was all but ours. So you know, this just ups the stress, but we've had the dominant car all race, and I expect nothing less in these last 50 laps. We're you know, going to try to win this thing, of course.
The 6-second advantage over Luz is going to be gone, and you're going to be side by side with him on road 2. The restart's coming up, so we're going to let you get out of here. We appreciate the time, Zach, and best of luck.
Thanks, Evan.
Again, that is Zach Novak running in third position. Ryan Luz in fourth. You have to assume, even though everybody's on even tires, that the guys who have been running 1-2 all night are going to be quicker than the likes of Chandler Krizik and Timmy Hill, who work the front row. Is Novak's being on the inside going to box him in? And does that mean that Luza has a better opportunity of going to the race lead? Anything but first, again, as they run now, would not be enough to get Zach Novak to the front. He says he's had the best car all night long. He has 50 laps left to go at Dover to prove it. Pace car down, and Chandler Krizik's number 48 Chevrolet is in control as we go back underway. Bad start on the top for the 4 of Timmy Hill. The 50 to Novak looks to set a pick on a 1. We're going to go 3 wide for second. It looks like the 50 to Novak is going to clear Luza for P2.
It didn't look like Timmy Hill wanted anything to do with the playoff picture battle, but here comes Marcus Richardson actually coming into the picture. He finds himself in 8th position, though just as I mentioned his name, he actually had a bad moment coming off of corner number 3 and 4. That has managed to bobble everyone up almost 3 wide for position number 10 as the lead battle still kicking off.
And Zach Novak got it. Tried high in 3 and 4, couldn't. Went low in 1 and 2. Yes, sir. Novak back to the race lead. Luza comfortably back into P2, and that'll cycle Chandler Krizik back to 3rd, and we are back to square one. Novak leading Luza between 1st and 2nd position. These drivers can go the distance with the fuel and the tires on board.
And now we have less than 50 laps to go. We'll see if the stress that Novak talked about makes him crack under the pressure, or if Ryan Luza can get up there and make it happen. Keep in mind, Evan, Ryan Luza essentially, not mathematically yet, but almost a lock to lock himself in on points to Homestead in that final playoff race. So there's no pressure for Luza. There's a lot riding on Novak's shoulders right now as we complete lap 154 behind them. Krizik under fire from Bobby Zelensky, Ray Alfala in 5th, and everybody else trying to fight for a position. Caution is out.
Caution flies, lap 155, and it's a big mess, a parking lot on the front.
Yeah, they're
Wow.
still wrecking going into across the start-finish line even. It looked to me, perhaps something like we had seen earlier. Oh, it looks to me like Chris Overland. Perhaps he had gotten loose on his own. I think he was fighting for position with Marcus Richardson. That is exactly what happened. Overland, he lost it coming off the corner, and he found himself, just like an incident we saw not that long ago, come right across the start-finish line, and that has wadded up many a machine. Nobody had anywhere to go. I see Andrew Fayette, Will Cooley involved. I see the cars of Blake Reynolds, Tyler Hill's involved. I think Alan Bowes managed to just scrape through with a little bit of damage on that 21 car, but some amazing maneuvering from some of these guys.
And we talk about a self-cleaning racetrack, just absolutely nowhere to go. The 41 you saw got involved in that one a little bit later on down the racetrack, but I mean, you got the 47 coming up, and there was just absolutely nothing that Andrew Fayash and his counterparts in the 20s could do, and they just wadded up a bunch of race cars.
Yeah, that's a tough break for those guys, and there's a couple that just barely got through. I think Nolan Scott may have got through with no damage, if any, at all, and then a couple of guys sliding in at the end. You mentioned Fayash, you mentioned Cooley. The 78 at Chalner, I believe, may have got through most of this, but still has a little bit of damage on his race car. So there's some other playoff implications there with Chalner and a couple of others. But we mentioned Marcus Richardson. We hadn't spoke his name all night long, at least inside the top 10. Runs in third right now, and away from some of that mess, at least near the end of that chain reaction on the front.
Tough break for obviously Overland, who was up inside of the top 10 that got that all kicked off. But again, you really got to feel for the drivers who had no part of it, and when it all broke out, we're half a racetrack behind that just could not get checked up in time. You see one guy gets on the brakes, he gets tagged to the back end, and from that point on, things just kind of compound themselves, and that's how you end up with a big headache like you saw on that one. So we work back under the caution to flag pit lane open as of the last time by, and we did have takers. Marcus Richardson stays out from 8th, and he will assume the number 3 spot. Everybody in front of him pitting. Clampett through Vincent, Alfala, Zelensky, and I believe Krizik all down pit road. Novak and Luza stay out up front, follow each other's strategy, and may now be both at risk of being overtaken by the drivers on fresh tires.
Yeah, 10 laps on these tires. And either way, I will have to say, anyone interested in Gen 6 NASCAR stock car parks, you can probably contact the front office. I'm sure they'll have some for you after that one. But for Zach Novak, I'm not sure about this one. Novak, Luza, Richardson, these 3 guys did not go into the pits. It'll be Zelensky, Vincent, and Logan Clampett, as well as Ray Alfala, who did take tires. So 10-lap difference between your 2, basically, sections of playoff drivers.
Zach Novak is going to stay up front. He wants these final 42 laps from Dover International Speedway to round out. We'll take a quick step aside. When we come back, a restart inside of 40 laps to go. You're watching the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live.
It's where fans shout. It's where cars scream. Where every color is represented, yet it's all red, white, and blue. It's high-flying, eye-popping, rip-roaring fun. The kind you wait for, the kind you live for, the kind you never, ever forget. Dover International Speedway. Experience traditions, cemented in Dover.
Welcome back to Dover International Speedway with a race start with only 41 laps to go in tonight's 15th race on the 2017 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, powered by iRacing. Tonight may be the most important race all season long. Old tires all of a sudden on the front row for Zach Novak, looking to win his way into the playoff championship. Will bring us back to the green flag with Luza alongside, and the 15 get to waste no time at all. Another stellar restart for the 15 Toyota.
Green flag back out as they dive it into corner number 1. Those top 2 on even keel tire-wise. We'll see what Novak and Ryan Luza can do, and see what those guys on the fresher rubber can do from about 5th on back. Zelensky, the 48 of Krizik side by side. All of a sudden, Corey Vincent's in the battle as well with Logan Clampett. This one is going to get exciting in these final 40 laps.
Watching drivers on the fresh tires try to work through. Look back by that 48 of Chandler Krizik, who was on pit road as of the last time by under the caution flag to take on fresh tires. A lot of people behind, 3 wide with Marcus Richardson in the middle. He gets split by Clappett High. Vincent as well there as well. You got Conti and Alfala in a hornet's nest for 7th.
Yeah, you had 4 playoff drivers, 3 wide going through here at Dover International. I think the track has rubbered in to the point that it is basically going to be an all-out brawl. Michael Conti, he wants to play spoiler once more as he's fighting his way through the field. Of course, he won your final race of the season before we got to the playoffs, and he's on the inside of Corey Vincent right now, trying to work his way through. But meanwhile, Zach Novak, he's well, his tires may be 10 laps older, but don't tell him that. He's pulling away from Ryan Luza, as well as Cody Bias, who's found himself. He started 7th, he's up to 3rd, so he's having a good run, as well as Dylan Duvall.
And Bias in the 27 machine, despite starting 7th tonight, has had a little bit of a rough go at it, but finds himself now back in the competitive spirit, leading the charge as we work under green. For those drivers who stayed out to pick up some significant positions, was 11th before the yellow, neglected the pit. He jumps all the way up to 3rd, so with Duvall, who rides in 4th at the moment. Bobby Zelensky, 5th position, may be leading the charge of drivers on fresh tires, but at a 1.5-second deficit if it stays green. Novak looking good, 3/10 in front of Luza.
And as they work up at a corner number 4, Bobby Zelensky moving up to that 5th place position, that last lap by, and closing in on Dylan Duvall. That was your bubble driver coming into this evening at Dover. Corey Vincent has had a roller coaster ride here at Dover, runs in position number 9. He's 3 points back from Zelensky coming in. He's 3 positions back right now on the racetrack, make that 4 in position number 9. So Corey Vincent, his road back, Evan, has been great, but he needs a little more as he's in the top 10, and he's battling with Krizik and Ray Alfala.
Needs that little bit extra. He has to get in front of the likes of Clampett and Zelensky, who are in front of him. Right now, a simple top 10's not going to cut it, but we have a battle for the race lead. Zach Novak is under fire by Ryan Luza as they sit. Luza into the playoffs, and Novak is too, but if the 15 gets past, it's a one-way ticket home, and a caution flag will fly. Just as the side-by-side challenge was coming, and they back at him.
It's Richardson. It's Marcus Richardson. He's on the inside wall, and I think he might have had some help from Jimmy Mullis, the number 40 machine. They were coming off of the corner. Mullis felt that he was probably clear. He ended up clipping a playoff driver in the very prime of the race for a good position. Marcus Richardson finding himself crashed into the inside wall. Not what he wanted to see, not the way he wanted to have his night. I actually think somebody else in the back, Michael Johnson, also had blown his engine. But for Marcus Richardson, that is the worst case scenario right there.
And that is his championship hopes dashed. Came into tonight at a 4-point deficit, which isn't a lot, but he needed a lot to go wrong for those in front of him. And so far to this point, it had just not been happening. And that spin into the inside wall not only is heavy damage on the 01, but that is 15 weeks gone, as the 01 machine no longer in a position to challenge for the race win here at Dover International Speedway. A crushing blow, literally and figuratively, for him, as race leaders now down pit road. Novak and Luza stayed out the last time, and they are going to come down pit road this time. Critical stop for both the 15 and the 1.
They're going to have numerous drivers stay out on the racetrack, including Duvall, and now new leader Cody Bias, with the 15 is down in his box. They're going to go at least right side tires. Do they decide to go 4 tires here? No, they do not. 15 car down away with 2 rights. He wins the race off pit road.
And it looks like it ends up being the right call, because Zelensky get to go with 2 tires as well off of the pit lane. So does Nichols. So does Clampett, Conti, Alfala, and then you will find Ryan Luza, who decided to make the 4-tire call on the pit lane, losing about 5 positions. Now again, the 4 tires could be worth those 5 spots, but at a first glance, not a terrible decision to go with 2 and win that race off of pit road.
Now, I'm not sure. We've got plenty of time left in this race, so we're not going to have a 2 or 3 lap shootout at the end of this. We're going to have a good 30 laps this time by. We'll probably have another 2 laps, so we'll probably have 18 or, well, about 28 to go, I'd have to say. But for Zach Novak, he's finding himself at least comfortable once again. He's got to rouse it up and see if he can get everything going. Cody Bias, though, is going to be your leader. However, those tires, I don't think, are going to stand anything that we've seen. Even with the track fully rubbered in, I don't see that those tires lasting at all. I think there might just be well overpaced, where I think that this restart would be very interesting to watch.
Road 2 is going to be critical as we work ourselves into what I think is safe to say the point of no return. It is the home stretch here tonight from Dover, and the final portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Blue Def, the official diesel exhaust fluid and DEF equipment of NASCAR. You look back on Road 2, two very different paths to this point this season and to this point tonight. But a Christian Challenger inside of Road 2 third, Zach Novak outside of Road 2 in fourth position. Both need a win to be able to make it to Homestead, so I can guarantee you that both of them will not race for the championship. Can't physically happen. So, does one of them get it? Is it the 78? Can he pull a shocker here by staying out? Does Novak, on the most consistent car over the course of the night, maybe neck and neck with Ryan Luza on the two-tire call and the first driver with fresh rubber? Does he get the job done? Or are these late race cautions, ensuing strategy, and following restarts, Tim, going to keep the 15 out of victory lane?
And how about the row behind them? You have the 83 of Bobby Zielinski on the inside of Logan Clampett. They came in fourth and third, respectively, into this race on the good side of the bubble to the green and safe. If Zach Novak is to get up there, or Christian Challenger for that effect, to get up there, one of them wins this race, more than likely the 83 and the 44, one of those drivers is probably not going to make the playoffs and not go to Homestead. So you got to think about that in mind. While those two in front of them are going for the win, if they do, it could spell trouble for Zielinski or the 44 of Logan Clampett. Right now, to the good, as long as one of those two in front do not win.
The majority of this race, Zielinski has been top 5, but has not been good. But now that it is not, the 15 of Novak in the race lead. In the live points, he would be above the top 4 cutoff. Restart coming up. 28 laps to go from Dover. Could it be for the final time tonight? Keep an eye on the 15, first car on 2 fresh tires. At the back on road number 5, the 1 is the first car on 4 fresh tires. Here they come into turn number 4. Cody Bias going to take a shot at the win. Green flag flies, and we go back and away. Not a good start for anybody topside. Look at Zielinski fight for third as he tries to go inside on Challenger. Can't do it, gets boxed in.
Challenger also carrying that damage on the front car as they will go 3 wide between 3 playoff contenders. Challenger will end up slotting into the high side. Zielinski will find himself on the inside. That's exactly what he wanted. Challenger, that aero damage on the front not helping out as Clampett's going to have to find himself to the inside, sliding in right in front of Corey Vincent. We're closing in on the laps to go here, and Christian Challenger has fallen way back on that high side.
Continuing to slide back topside, Zielinski may have had a better restart than Novak, but he got boxed in and can't get around traffic. Here comes the 15 at a turn number 4, looking for the race lead. He needs that number 1 position if he wants to be able to fight for this. Meanwhile behind, Conti still third. Luza up to 4th, though, on the 4 fresh tires. He may be a spoiler later on, but here comes Novak to the inside. Side by side, 25 to go. New race leader.
And Zach Novak got all the right brakes on that restart to get up there and take this lead with 25 laps to go. Could that be the winning pass that puts him into the final race at the Homestead Miami Speedway? We'll find out in 24.5 laps time. Behind them, and oh, by the way, here comes Ryan Luza. Car number 1 is going to move to position number 2 around Bias, and Michael Conti, I don't think we spoke his name all night long. He's up into the top 5 right now and closing in on Cody Bias. So while Luza and Novak have taken away the majority of the headlines here so far, the 5 of Michael Conti trying to play spoiler, and he's bringing Logan Clampett with him.
And if this race goes green for the next 23 laps at this time by, I don't see how Zach Novak holds off Ryan Luza. 2 tires versus 4 is just not going to cut it, and Luza doesn't need the win. But he wants it nonetheless. Caution flag is going to fly as we got a big wreck out of turn 4.
Yeah, that was, it was an incident starting with Alan Bowes. He went to the inside of Chandler Kryzak, ended up finding himself bumping Chandler Kryzak. Kryzak bumped into Taylor Hurst. Taylor Hurst hit the outside wall, went up forced to blow his engine, and that started the incident as multiple cars got involved. Alex Bergeron finding himself involved in that one, as well as damage getting scatterbound across. It may have looked worse, but it certainly was not that incident that we had seen before. Very unfortunate, as Alex Bergeron, I don't think he can get that car fired up as he's sitting there on the start-finish line as he gets himself to pit lane. But either way, though, for Zach Novak, how many times is he going to have to do this, where he is managing to pull massive gaps? He's been running it great, and every single time he seems to be in the clear, Evan, he has to do it all over again.
And these yellows, I think, in the broadest sense, are hurting him, because if we stayed green through the cycle to green flag pit stops, he was 6 seconds out in front and he was good, Tim. So I think in the broadest sense, the yellows in general have hurt him. He has been in a couple of positions tonight to be able to pull away and to be able to lock this thing up, and these have hurt him. But I think that last one might have helped him a bit. You get 5 laps here where Luza can't get you at all. You cool down the tires a little bit, because again, if they stayed green, I think Luza might have been too quick for him. So these are the pluses and the minuses and the friends and the foes that you have to look at in these late race scenarios.
We've seen a couple of these races go where we have a couple of quick cautions at the end and a couple laps and then a caution, then a restart. A couple laps, caution, restart. If that goes the way, it could help Zach Novak. If we get a long green flag run, it could help Ryan Luza. We'll see how this plays out. But Novak right now, we talked about the stress earlier. I think it ramped up about 15 notches when that caution flag came out.
Luza's got the 4 tires, and he will restart this one from second with the driver, the number 1 on the radio. Ryan, you got us?
I got you.
You guys are lining up P2 for this one, the 4-tire call. What was the decision to make to win that one? And it was a quick charge from 9th to 2nd.
I don't know. I just wanted 4. I had stayed out the time before, and I don't like staying out and then going for 2 anyways, because anybody else that took 2 would have better lefts than me regardless. So 4 obviously ended up being the right call for us. Just kind of had stuff go our way on that restart, and I don't know, we got a pretty decent tire advantage over Novak, and we seem to be pretty close to the same speed on the same tire. So hopefully I can get him here. It's really, really hard to pass. I definitely don't want to wreck it, because that'll take us right out of Homestead real fast, but we're still looking for a win.
And obviously you guys had such a good run 2 weeks ago at Chicago, ended up not getting the result. That sitting in second right now, you look for some redemption in that sense. But you guys come into tonight very comfortable in the points, plus 26. Novak in front of you has to win, so you know that he's going to be a lot more aggressive than you, arguably, because he has nothing to lose. It's literally checkers or wreckers for him at his championship hopes. So how do you take that into account in trying to set this up?
It's definitely nerve-wracking, because in his situation, I'd be driving myself, you know, as hard as possible. And I mean, the last thing I want to do is get wrecked, but I still want to win. So it's a pretty tough situation, knowing I'm locked to where I run, but the win is right there. So it's really tough to say I'm going to go for it, but I'm not looking to do anything dangerous.
We wish you both the best of luck on this restart. Thanks for giving us the time to chat with you, and go get him.
Thanks, Evan.
That's the driver who sits in second, Ryan Luza, on the radio, taking into account that, yes, Zach Novak is going to make that 15 Toyota as wide as he can, Tim. But at the end of the day, the one does not care about the 15's playoff hopes. The one wants to win.
Here's something to think about, Evan. If the one car can get by Zach Novak and win this race, Ryan Luza doesn't have to worry about Zach Novak at Homestead. He still has to worry about 3 other contenders, but he doesn't have to worry about Novak. And keep in mind, the way he's run at the end of this season, Zach Novak could very well win here and also win at Homestead. He's been lightning quick these last couple of rounds in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series. Scored his first win a couple rounds ago. Think if I'm Ryan Luza, I need to put Zach Novak out of the playoff picture.
He has an opportunity to do so here. Zach Novak has a chance for the Hail Mary to come from 30 points down to get a win and to lock into the championship 4. But he's going to have to pull something else out of his bag of tricks, and that is to do it with a tire disadvantage. to Ryan Luza, who already this season has 3 checkered flags. The 15 has the advantage of being in front. Green flag in the air with 182 laps complete. Novak a good jump.
Yeah, you got to remember Cody Bias and Dylan Duvall. Between the two, Cody Bias has got 35 laps on his tires. Dylan Duvall with 41. Zach Novak, he's comfortable. They both got 13 laps between the two, so it's a duel to finish out this race. Michael Conti, though, he is right there. Can he recover and have a good finish here? Obviously, he's set up for a good finish, but he wants more, I'm sure. No reason to fight for points. He's out of the playoff picture. Might as well finish on a high note. As Novak and Ryan Michael Luza, they are very, very close, coming off of corner number 4.
Here comes the one, trying to set him up. He has ample time to do so unless yellows take some of what's going to be 16 laps to go this time by out of this race. If you're Zach Novak, you are feeling the pressure, needing this win, but do not overdrive the car. Same applies to Luza, who looks to the inside, but again, will not force the issue, not wanting to find trouble, and a caution flag is out with 15 to go.
15 laps remaining in this one. The yellow flag comes out, and David Rattler is a pile of junk on the back straightaway. Something has happened to the 09 car because that thing shortened up.
Arguably, it was a pile of junk before. Rattler had a heavily damaged car, had a rough go at it tonight, and we saw our race leaders clear him easily for the first time at turns 1 and 2, but when the 2 wide of lead lap battling came behind him, there was just nowhere for the 42 at Duval to go, and tagged him at the back end. The 09 gets spun at turn number 2, and the caution flag flies once more. And again, arguably that one good for Zach Novak because it takes another 5 laps away from Ryan Luza and possibly trying to set him up and pass for the top spot.
Yeah, if we could get the blood pressure from the guys that are running in front of this race, I gotta say, especially for Zach Novak, how many restarts does he need to do where he manages to get the massive jump, he manages to get the huge leap, he gets comfortable, he gets in a rhythm, and then he's got to do it all over again? I imagine the pressure just builds up. Restart after restart after restart. After this one, I mean, Zach Novak, he is going to be the restart king here at Dover International Speedway, but of course he wants something far more. He wants a ticket to Homestead Miami Speedway. Could he get it? Well, I have to say, it doesn't look like it's going to be that much of a challenge from Ryan Luza depending on these restarts, because I'd have to say, Novak, he's the quickest one on these restarts. I would have think that perhaps Luza would have wanted a couple more laps to hunt him down.
And the 15, again, he needs those laps to hunt him down, but I think that's about as perfect as you can get it. If Zach Novak gets 1 or 2 more of those, Tim, he's set. You get a restart, you get your gap, he closes into you in 4 laps, you get a yellow. That's the perfect scenario for Zach Novak. And again, the 15 needs the win. If the 1 is to make a move, you have to expect that the 15 is going to make that car as wide as he can. And for the 1 machine, yes, you don't care about the 15. You're not going to, quote, take the 2nd place finish because Zach Novak needs the win. But at the same time, and as Luza said, we've said it many a time, he has a 26-point advantage in the points, but there's 27 cars on the lead lap. I don't think it's worth it for the 1 to go for the win on a very desperate driver and risk taking himself out of this race based on the amount of cars that are still on the lead lap, and then with Clampett and Zelensky there in the top 5, possibly in what would be a shocker, out of the top 4 if he wrecks himself. So both these drivers have to weigh what it's worth to him.
We heard from Ryan Luza on that caution that he doesn't want to wreck his car because he knows that if he does, he's likely not going to Homestead and likely not having a chance at the championship. But keep in mind, Michael Conti sits in position number 3. Conti essentially has nothing to lose. Yes, he wants to finish top 10 in the point standings, currently enters 9th, first driver outside the playoff picture, but he's going for wins. He wants to win for Team Conti, and right now sits in position number 3. If Novak and or Luza have one little bobble, Conti's going to be there and try to take the win. And oh, by the way, if Zach Novak wins this thing, that Zelensky and Vincent battle, it pretty much means nothing because Zach Novak's going to leapfrog them and lock himself into the playoffs with Clampett running well and Luza running well. Those will be your 4. But Corey Vincent has passed Bobby Zelensky. He needs a couple more positions, and if Zach Novak doesn't win the race, that could be that bubble spot between Vincent and Zelensky, currently running 6th and 7th. If Zielinski either loses a couple of spots or Corey Vincent picks up a couple spots, that bubble opens if the 15 does not seal the deal here.
Lights go out on top of the pace car again. If Luza wins, he and Alfala transfer in on wins. Clampett would be safe via points, and Zielinski would have to stay in front of Corey Vincent. Vincent just needs to beat him by 4 positions to make a difference for that final spot. If we see the 15 win, that doesn't matter. Zielinski, Vincent are going to be fighting for the first loser, and it would be Luza and Clampett in on points. So many races this season, 15 races have come down to this point, and all that matters is a restart with 11 laps to go tonight from Dover International Speedway. Again, Novak on the inside. Nothing less than a win is acceptable. Luza outside wants the win, but would rather take, I think, a car in one piece in P2 than a junked race car going for the win. Different story for Michael Conti. He's here to win races. Clampett can solve all problems. If he gets a win too, he's on the outside of row number 2. How does this one shake out in the final 11 laps? Green flag in the air. Novak, another good jump. Not as far in front, though, to be a 3-car length advantage.
Yeah, and actually a very good restart from Ryan Michaeluza. It's not going to matter. There's a big jump going into corner number 1. We're going to have yet another shootout. I even see the green commitment cone from pit lane out there. That is how bad that one went. I see Timmy Hill, Blake Reynolds, Joe Letteriello involved in this one, as well as Ryan Schoenberg and Chandler Kryzik. So not the start that they want to have.
And you can see the driver spinning down to the inside was that number 21 of Alan Bose that had a good night tonight. The outside just got jacked up, and I think Letteriello got tagged from behind. But the 94 of Diaz, that sent him down the hill into the 21 of Bose. Bose ended up in the fence. Schoenberg was in the wall, and that one, I think the literal definition of a racing incident. Drivers weren't necessarily overly aggressive, just the slightest bit of contact on 11 lap to go restart broke out into that accordion effect and took a couple of drivers out around 10th position.
And it was slight contact on the restart between Diaz and the 33 of Letteriello that caused that, and everybody else piles in, as you mentioned, to bring out the caution flag. Great one for Novak. We've talked about it before. If he can continue to pick up some great starts and hold off for 1, 2, maybe 3 laps, and the caution flag does come out, he holds the lead. We go back to green with probably 6, maybe 5 laps to go in this one. And if he can do it again and they can go for a couple laps and the caution flag comes out, this race would be over, and Zach Novak would be punching his ticket to the Homestead Miami Speedway, and that 2-tire call becomes a $10,000 decision in the good. But if Ryan Luza can capitalize, then it could play effect again if this race goes green from the restart to the checkered flag. Logan Clampett, Michael Conti really didn't get great starts in row number 2. So if that happens again, Evan, they might be non-factors in this.
And the 15 again just wants to see the white flag, I think, first and foremost. But again, and as some of these races have concluded, if we get a yellow inside of the final 4 laps, at 4 laps to go or less, we will not have time to go through a cycle of caution flag service and restart this race. So Zach Novak, I think, on the board is going to be looking at a 6 or 7 lap shootout to the end of this thing. But in reality, and if the yellows continue to come at a rate at which they have been in recent laps, it might only have to be 2 or 3 laps, which I think is a lot more plausible.
Yeah, I mean, it's just restart after restart. If Zach Novak can get the jump, I think he's got it. If he can't get the jump, I'm not sure. Ryan Luza, he's been basically in that catbird seat all season long. We have been seeing him have to jump restarts and count on the leader again and again and again. Where will he land? You got to remember, Logan Clampett's there too. He's cleared those cars that had those old tires. Corey Vincent is also here. Bobby Zielinski, oh, what happened? He was running up front. He was so strong. Well, he's all the way back and starting 8th position. Not what he is going to want here. So we're looking to get ourselves underway. Obviously, nobody coming into pit lane. You don't want to risk that. And I think everybody is comfortable on fuel, I would at least hope.
And as we mentioned earlier tonight during the Pro Invitational race, the NASCAR's Top Series are headed right here to Dover International Speedway this weekend, featuring the likes of the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East, the NASCAR Xfinity Series, and the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. Kids tickets are free on Friday and Saturday, and just $10 for the race on Sunday. There's tons of free fun for all ages. Prior to the races, rock band The Struts are performing a free concert on Sunday morning, and ticket deals are still available. You can visit doverspeedway.com for more information. And again, if you go to doverspeedway.com/sweepstakes, you could enter into a contest to win pit passes for a 2018 race weekend at Dover International Speedway. Again, all of that information and more is at doverspeedway.com and doverspeedway.com/sweepstakes. Lights head out on top of the pace car for what could be the final time in the opening round of the playoffs. 6 laps to go is the magic number. A quick instant yellow means a 1 or 2 lap shootout. If we go any more than 2 miles and then get a yellow, the leader at the point of caution has a checkered flag.
So who ends up going to victory lane in this one? Zach Novak? I would think if I'm Novak, I'm hoping for a quick caution flag. If I'm Ryan Luza, I'm hoping this thing goes green to the end. If I'm those guys behind, I'm probably hoping this goes green to the end as well. By the way, keep an eye on Vincent and Zielinski. 3 spots in between them right now. That's 3 points, but they need Novak to not go to victory lane.
Pace car ducking down this time. Zach Novak has had ample opportunity to practice his restart procedure tonight. He has led the more laps than anybody else, but can he close it out on a tire disadvantage of the most important restart of his sim racing career? 6 laps to go from Dover, and it's a good jump for the 15.
He delivered on what he needed to do. Now, will the field cooperate going into 1 and 2? Everybody seems to be handling it all right. Side-by-side action between Michael Conti and Logan Clampett as they head their way towards corner number 3 and 4.
The 44 Clampett works on the inside, Conti on the outside of the stalemate. But here comes the battle for the race lead. 5 laps to go from Dover. Does Luza go high? Does Luza go low? Novak driving out of the rearview mirror.
Zach Novak needs this. Ryan Luza doesn't have as much pressure. Needs to keep that car in one piece, though. They work through 3 and 4. Look at the run that Ryan Luza gets. Has a fast run. Can't get the effort off corner number 4. Now he goes to the inside.
Side by side for the race lead at lap 197. Luza to the inside as Novak's playoff hopes hang in the balance. Top side may be the better place to be. At a 15 with a better run that time down the back, still neck and neck in 3 and 4.
Yeah, he really should just disengage, let him go, unless he can continue to work that high side. I think the high side's starting to actually come in with these cars running. He can actually put on a decent fight back here. 198 of 200 is in the books. Logan Clampett looking at anything happens here. And here comes Zach Novak. He's falling back. Logan Clampett, he's looking to get by.
That's it. Novak overdrove turn number 2, and new race leader at 2 laps to go is Ryan Luza.
Ryan Luza pulling away now with this one. 3 lengths on the 15. Novak has to keep that 44 behind him. Well, playoff picture, it really doesn't matter. He needs to catch the 1 as they're going to come to the white flag this time by. Keep in mind, Zielinski and Vincent also battling. Could be a playoff spot.
Side by side as they battle behind. Zielinski, Vincent still in favor of the 83 for the final transfer spot in on points. Novak is maybe going to lose second as Clampett challenges, but in the end and in the grand scheme of things, second place is worthless. Ryan Luza makes the pass at 6 laps to go. It'll keep Zach Novak out of the playoffs, and it'll punch him a ticket to Homestead. Luza win number 4 on 2017.
Throws the massive drift going in through 1 and 2. Luza, I have to say, is ecstatic. He's actually parked the car in the outside wall. So Ryan Luza, he had come to the loss last couple of weeks ago. If only he had a couple of more laps, could he have taken the victory there? Well, he's got it now. Now all he's got is 1 more race in his schedule, and that is Homestead Miami Speedway. So Ryan Luza, your winner here at Dover.
And what seemed like the impossible task into tonight for Zach Novak at a 30-point deficit. Again, not according to the mathematics, but assuming that there was not going to be an apocalyptic scenario for everybody in front of him. Zach Novak needed to win, and he brought a race-winning car to Dover International Speedway. Started second, was able to run much of this race in front of Luza. In fact, was better than Luza in both the warm-up session and qualifying. And a two-tire call late seemed to be the difference maker. It worked for the first, it worked for the second, it worked for the third, but it did not work for the fourth late race restart. And well, he gets a fantastic P2. A P2, it might as well be a P42 in this one. Zach Novak, again, unofficially not getting the win tonight and will fail to qualify for the championship 4 as Luza snatched it away with 2.5 miles to go.
And Evan, unofficially, when you look at the battle between Zielinski and Vincent on that restart with 6 laps to go, Vincent had the 3 spots that he needed on Zielinski, but the outside line went on that final restart. Zielinski was able to clear Corey Vincent before the next lap was over. Vincent looked high on the final lap. Jimmy Mullis went to the inside, but it was really all for naught unofficially, and we're going to have to wait for the tabulations to come out. I think Zielinski beat Vincent for that bubble spot, and it came down to that final restart with 6 laps to go.
Logan Clampett going to be safely in third position. He just had to stay in front. Or rather, he could have gotten beaten by Bobby Zielinski by 8 positions and still transferred. He finishes 5 in front of him, so all should be well for that. And of course, Zielinski Vincent should determine the final transfer spot in 7th and 8th. Let's look at top to bottom at your complete race results tonight from Dover International Speedway, where Ryan Luza plays spoiler as a playoff driver, taking away a Homestead Golden ticket from Zach Novak, who comes home second tonight. Logan Clampett, solid effort, safely into the championship 4 with a third here tonight. Michael Conti, great improvement after starting in 24th position to come home P4, and Cody Bias rounds out your top 5. PJ Sturgis back at his old form tonight, a great race for the 57 who came home in 6th tonight. Bobby Zielinski may have done just enough to come home P7. Corey Vincent finished is at 8th position with Jimmy Mullis in 9th and Kenny Humpy rounding out your top 10.
Ray Alfalo will fight for a championship at Homestead. He qualifies, or comes home in 11th in the final race, heading in to the playoff championship race at Homestead. Nolan Scott hung out around the top 10 all night long, finishes in 12th. Jake Nichols in 13th. Great run for Adam Gilliland, comes home in 14th place. Ryan Lowe in 15th. Dylan Duvall rebounds for 16th. Phil Diaz in 17th. Christian Chalner will not qualify for that final round of the playoffs. He finishes 18th this evening. Timmy Hill 19th, and Will Cooley in 20th.
And finishing in the 21st position is Casey Tucker. Byron Daly, he'll come home in the 22nd position. Joe Latarillo will come home 23rd. Jake Sturgis, he'll finish in 24th after a strong showing in the front of the race. He'll end up finishing 24th. Nick Ottinger, 25th, 3 laps down. And it just gets into provisionals at this point as the tallies were high for cars that did not finish. Brian Schoenberg, Chandler Krasik, Blake Reynolds, Alan Bowes, and Chris Shearburn round out the top 30.
Continuing on through the rest of these drivers out of this one through 31st position, David Rattler, Derek Bordeaux 32nd, Taylor Hurst 33rd, 34th, Alex Bergeron and Marcus Richardson unable to get it tonight, wrecks out late and comes home in 35th. Chris Overland, strong night early, not the result he wanted nor deserved in 36th position with Andrew Fayash 37th, Mitchell Hunt in 38th, Tyler Hill in 39th, and Josh Berry in 40th. Rounding out the field tonight, 41st position is Michael Johnson and Matt Busa in 42nd. It's a look top to bottom at your RaceSpotTV full race results. We will step aside, and when we come back to Dover International Speedway, we'll be trackside with Ryan Luza winning on a 6-lap to go restart, and he's headed for a shot at $10,000. That and more post-race reaction when we come back. You're watching the 2017 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live.
It's where fans shout. It's where cars scream. Where every color is represented, yet it's all red, white, and blue. It's high-flying, eye-popping, rip-roaring fun. The kind you wait for. The kind you live for. The kind you never, ever forget. Dover International Speedway. Experience traditions. cemented in Dover.
The NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, powered by iRacing, is the premier NASCAR esports series featuring the cars and tracks from the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. The 2016 campaign saw a return to the top of the mountain by Ray Alfalla as a three-time NASCAR World Champion. The march to that championship was not easy, though, despite the fact that Ray Alfalla took home the most points in series history. It just also happened to be the tightest championship fight we had ever seen. These guys are set for the 2017 campaign, and as it has been for the 7 years prior, it is no longer going to be a straight shot to the championship. We are going to see the biggest change in this championship picture in series history, as for the first time ever, there will be a chase for the championship. We're going to go into the Homestead Miami Speedway at the end of the season with the 4 best oval sim racing drivers in the world absolutely tied in the championship. You just got to beat the other 3 guys out and you will become an official NASCAR champion. You're going to get yourself a NASCAR championship ring and, of course, $10,000. These are the iRacing Esport World Championships, the pinnacle of sim racing competition. You can catch it all season long, live coverage on iRacing.com/live. Welcome back live to Dover International Speedway for the RaceSpotTV post-race show following a thrilling conclusion to tonight's Dover 200, the 15th race on this 2017 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing, and happy that you're with us. Still awaiting official word on the 4 drivers that make the championship 4. No doubt that Ray Alfalla and Ryan Luza make that cut. Luza locking in, securing what was already a comfortable points gap with the win here tonight. It'll be trackside Tim with him in just a moment, but a lot of the time you build up to something like this, an elimination race, somebody who's looking and needs a win, and oftentimes they're just not there. It just doesn't live up to it. This one lived up to it, and it came down to 3 laps to go in the battle between first and second. A spirited but heartbreaking end for the 15.
Yeah, it definitely lived up to all expectations. You had that battle in front for not only the win, but also a way to lock yourself into the final playoff race at the Homestead Miami Speedway. Then when that subsides, you have a battle between Bobby Zalenski and Corey Vincent. On the restart, Corey Vincent was almost to the good. He was almost in the final transfer spot, and then Zielinski fights back in those last few laps. So not only did you have that battle up in front, you had the battle for the bubble position, and guys going hard throughout the race, especially on those late restarts. You had everything that I think anybody could have asked for here from Dover.
And the driver who ends up on top of the frame when it's all said and done is Ryan Luza, adding another win to the back pocket, his 4th on 2017. And we're trackside with the driver of the number 1 machine. Ryan, congratulations on the win. Had an opportunity to chat with you right before the restart. You made the move to the inside and ended up working out for you guys. You get the win, 4th on the year.
Yeah, I don't know. Kind of crazy race. In a way, I feel bad for Novak, but, I mean, the 2 tires was just too much of a speed difference, and I was able to get him there on the bottom. Happy we could do it clean, and we didn't, you know what I mean? There was no wrecking involved or anything like that that made big championship implications. So, thanks to him for racing me clean, and everybody in the field for racing us clean the entire race.
As we said at the top, and as we had chatted with you there briefly before those final restarts, you guys came into tonight not mathematically locked in, but all but after having what was arguably a race-winning car 2 weeks ago and not getting that one because of pit strategy. Maybe the favor was returned by the racing gods tonight, and it ends up working out for you at the end. But on top of the fact that you had already known that basically you were going to transfer anyways, I think momentum is something that can't be understated. And we had kind of looked when the playoffs began, all right, who in those top 8 is going to kind of click it up a notch? And out of everybody else, you're the only driver in the championship 4 who has 2 wins in the last, what ends up going to be in 6 races of this. So more so than others on a streak. Did you feel like tonight having to go for that win as opposed to being content with a second was critical for you to remain rather with that competitive edge, which I think that you guys should carry over to Homestead?
I mean, to be completely honest with you, Evan, the biggest reason I wanted to win was to keep Zach out. I mean that as a compliment. He's been pretty much the fastest car week in and week out, and their team has done an incredible job. And he's been pretty unlucky here in the race so far. And it's, I don't know, I feel like he's one of the toughest competitors with Ray as far as fighting for Homestead. So, I mean, he's qualified on pole at like 4 out of the last 5 races. So they've just been so fast. I really just didn't want him in the chase. And, I mean, a win is a win. Don't get me wrong. Really wanted the win, but that's kind of the added bonus there. So, I don't know, great job to Novak all season. Great job by everybody who's made it to the top 8 and competed for it. I think a really good top 8 drivers made it, and I'm looking forward to 2 weeks from now.
And the implications of Zach Novak not getting the win and not transferring is therefore Bobby Zielinski in 7th does make the playoffs finale instead of the driver of the 15. It would have been either or of them. If Novak would have won, he would have been kicked out. Instead, his not winning brings the 83 back up above that cut line in points. You've had ample opportunity to race around these guys. I know that you have not been in this series by any means as long as some of these other names, the likes of Alfalo, who you're going to be going up head-to-head against, but it was quite clear after the Pro Series performance over the course of 16, 17, and an all season long that you guys were here to compete. Do you feel like in any way that you have a disadvantage having less experience in this series going into Homestead, or do you look at the stat sheet and say, I have 4 wins, that is more than anybody else this year, and I'm the guy to beat?
I don't know. I don't really think of it like that. I don't know, being the rookie and not being through this, it's a lot more nerve-wracking, I feel like. I haven't been super nervous in a race car where I was getting shaky feet since I ran Legends maybe 6 or 7 years ago at Charlotte. And I was getting that there in the race towards the end. So Homestead is going to be really nerve-wracking. And, you know, Ray's won 3 times. I'm sure he gets nervous too, but, I mean, he's been through it multiple times. So it's going to be a lot different for me, I feel like. Just got to keep the nerves under wrap. I mean, it's $10,000. That's a lot of money. It's a fun trip to Homestead. I really want to go. I don't know, just got to keep the nerves in check and prepare.
And well, last year's race at Homestead, as Alfala bought with Sturgis over the championship there, well, it wasn't under this format. That one was all intensive purposes, you know, the final race, and you got to win it or you got to beat the other guy to get the championship. But I think the one part that might help you out a little bit is, even though Alfala's been in this series and has won 3 championships, he's never gone to Homestead for a $10,000 race. One race, the bonus points don't matter. Tonight will not matter. In 2 weeks' time, it is going to come down to that. So let's talk about the Homestead Miami Speedway. Going to be the site of this season finale. You don't care about 39 of the other cars. You just have to beat 3 of them. And what's the process going to be like over the next 2 weeks prepping for that? And how you feeling now immediately that Homestead's going to be the place that it's decided at?
I like Homestead as a track. It's pretty fun. I like the dynamic track factor that we have there. You can run the bottom, you can run the top, run the middle, run anywhere. So that's really nice to be able to make moves on people. The one thing I do hope is we don't get this really cold, overcast weather. It makes it a lot harder to pass. I don't know, just a lot of preparation. You only got to beat 3 other drivers, but you know, I'll put a bet on it that we'll be running 1, 2, 3, 4 at some point. So basically, got to win it. Basically, that's the mindset for all 4 of us. Just got to win the race. Do it that way and grab the championship.
It's something that you've been able to do this season. You have to look for one more in 2 weeks' time, and we wish you the best of luck headed into that one. But tonight was a hard-fought night for you guys. You had a fast car, and for much of the night, I think that you may have felt, and the car looked like it may have been the fastest car. But late race restarts kept kind of kicking you down, and you weren't able to get that little bit extra. You worked for it. You earned the victory, so we are going to let you get out of here and celebrate that and take a break. But before we do, as always, the sponsors and everybody at the team who makes it happen for you in this one team all season long for a shot at $10,000 next race.
First, I just want to thank iRacing for the opportunity. It's a great service. Great thing to even have fun racing on it, but much less to compete for money and do it at this top level like this. Thank you guys for covering it, being very professional and making the broadcast very nice. Thanks to Fast Track Sims for staying with me all season long.
We also appreciate the time that you've given to us, Ryan, and I'm sure we're going to be bugging you a little bit between now and Homestead. But again, congratulations on this win. Congratulations on the success that you guys have had to hold this season. And for your sake and for everybody else who has put all this time into it for you and the team, I hope that it pays out in 2 weeks' time, and we will catch up with you then nonetheless.
Thanks, Evan. Thanks, guys.
That is Ryan Luza stealing the race win tonight from Zach Novak. He's headed to Homestead with 4 wins in the back pocket. He broke a tie tonight with Ray Alfala for the most wins this season. He now sits in sole possession of that title with his 4th win this year in his rookie campaign in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series. Zach Novak, 2 laps away from a spot on the Homestead Championship grid. It comes up just shy, and a valiant and historic effort, and trackside with him is Cam.
Yeah, Zach, it's always tough to have to answer questions, so I think normally I know mine are long-winded, but the simplest question I could ask is probably the hardest, just what happened?
Well, I don't know, I just gave it all I had. I knew Luza was on 4 tires, and we took 2 to try to keep it out front. I feel like this was very similar to Indy just a few months ago, or a month ago, however long ago it was. Where, you know, we were at a disadvantage on tires, and we just, you know, we couldn't really break away. And Luza was just so much faster there, and I couldn't do anything about it. I tried all I could through 1 and 2, and you know, if I backed out, then he was going to take the lead. If I didn't back out, I was going to hit the wall, and, you know, maybe it messed him up or something. That would have been best case scenario. So, nonetheless, I gave it all I had. 152 laps led tonight. Best car. I'm pretty sure we had the best car, and I'm very proud of my performance. That was one of my best races to this date, and you know, there's things I can hang my head on, but I gotta look at the positives of how great of a season we had.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, basically just one restart away. You nailed so many of them, but I know it's so hard to shift from gears from working on a championship to perhaps reflecting on a season, but it's your first season in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series. You had to qualify just to make it on track, and you ended up coming so very short, just one race away and just a couple positions away, one position away, really. So, I mean, just your very first season in the Peak Antifreeze Series, and just as you said, you led 153 laps and one of the most competitive, basically the highest tier that you could ever get in online oval sim racing. I mean, if you talk about things that you can hang your hat on, that's certainly one of them.
Yeah, with that 153 or 52 laps led, that makes us the leading laps led driver, I guess, through the season. So, like I said, there's a lot of things that went well this season. We definitely had some bad luck, but overall, I'm so very proud of everybody at Lockdown Racing for everything they do for me, for giving me this opportunity, and you know, it's just been such an incredible journey, and I can't wait for next season. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, definitely. You'll be certainly recognized as one of the front runners of the season going forward. That's for sure. There is one race left on the season. I got to ask you about it, but it is Homestead Miami Speedway, and I have to say, no matter what, you could still probably work for that victory and see if you could put a cap on it and play spoiler to some of these guys, make them fight for points. But either way, obviously, it's a very, very big shift going from one, are you excited for Homestead, to another, but I still have to ask.
Yeah, I think we're just going to go into Homestead. You know, if we win, that'd be amazing. But if we don't, it's nothing to hang our head on, like this race at least. You know, if we can go out and have a good showing, that's all I want. Is just to prove that, you know, we may have had some really good races, but we've also had some bad ones this season, mainly on luck. We just struggled with finishes at some points with just having bad luck, but I just want to show that we can keep consistent and you know, be a legit contender next year.
And of course, that number 15 car, it's 400 laps led in the series. And of course, throughout all of that, you've had all sorts of people helping you out, all sorts of sponsors on you. So certainly the floor is yours, and you can give a shout out to anyone you like.
Maybe a little bit lengthy, so I apologize. But like I said before, I want to thank everybody at Lockdown Racing for giving me the opportunity to, you know, even be this competitive in the series. And on top of that, they've had my back all the way through, and I can't thank them enough. I want to thank Andrew Fayash for you know, just being a great teammate, helping me through thick and thin when it comes to being a, you know, good vet, I guess, so to speak, and just being a great teammate. Got to thank Brandon Coppinger. He spotted me to my only win this season, so thanks to him, and also thanks to David Rattler. He's also had kind of bad luck this season, but no matter what, I expect him to be in the series next year if he has to go through pro to do it. So good for him. And got to thank Joe Lawrence and Keegan Leahy. I guess you could call them co-crew chiefs this year. They both helped out a ton in making us good in the races, and you know, just keeping it smooth. So thanks to them. Thanks to Logan Sheets, Marcus Lambert, Matt Bontempi, as well as Keegan for doing amazing work on the setups every week, and can't thank them enough. Nick Ward for being an excellent spotter, Patrick Crabtree, Richard Holiday. Thanks to all of them, and thanks to all my sponsors, Infinite Craze Solutions, Wilkinson Enterprises, Devin O'Connell Racing, St. Pius Pilgrimage, Always Awesome Apparel. Thanks to all of them for everything they do. Thanks to Peak for putting on an excellent, or helping put on an excellent series, as well as iRacing. And thanks to you guys for the broadcast. Sorry for the lengthy thanks list, but I got to get it out of the way now.
Yeah, well, just I know it's not the interview you wanted to have, but still, thanks so much for hopping in the booth with us, and wish you the best of luck at Homestead.
Thanks, Cam. Thanks, guys.
So that is Zach Novak, the number 15 Toyota Camry. Not finishing that far behind, however, is the number 44 Logan Clampett. For one where the emotions are at a very low, the other is at emotions that are very high. Mr. Logan Clampett, you've punched the ticket. You're going to Homestead.
Yeah, I'm so excited. That race, I did whatever Bobby did just in case, since I had, like, I don't know, I think it was 8 or 9 points. And just, I was just hoping that whole race, man, that I wouldn't get wrecked or anything, and, you know, everything went perfect. About, like, mid-race or somewhere, we got a little bit stuck back there, but made our way through, and, it really just, I can't believe it. I can't believe that we made it this far in our second year. I can't wait in 2 weeks for Homestead.
Yeah, last year you were a rookie. This year you've got the chance to become the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series champion. I got to ask the questions. This whole race at Dover, we had one green flag pit stop stint. The rest of it, all earmarked by cautions. People were taking 2, people were taking 4. The restarts were endless. Just try and take me through just how you really got through all of these restarts.
I just tried to be careful around other people, and hopefully, and just hope that they would be careful around me too. And thankfully they were. I had to make a couple risky moves there, but restarts were really important, especially being on the outside lane. The outside lane was the preferred line there on those restarts. So I'm glad that we didn't really get trained in any certain way on those restarts.
And of course, there is but one final question I can ask. It's Homestead Miami Speedway. It's a 1.5 miles down in Florida. Only this time you get to race for a chance at $10,000. Just race prep, probably starting 20 minutes from now.
I don't know about that. Maybe within the next couple days. But also, one more thing. I just wanted to thank NX for, you know, getting me to this point, and we've just worked so hard, man, and during these playoffs, and we finally gotten here. Especially a shout out to my fans. They've come a long way. I've known a few of them for, like, you know, years and years, and still I talk to the guys still that got me into iRacing, Chris Nosowski, and also a big shout out to my family. They're my biggest fans. They watch the races every week, and they were pretty excited when I made the Final Four, especially my dad. I gotta give them credit. They've really motivated me to get into this Final Four.
Well, either way, it is certainly it's certainly something interesting. All of the new guys seem to be able to rise right to the top, and you're going to have a chance of doing something pretty historic. So we'll let you go celebrate the hole punching in the ticket and all that, and we will see you in 2 weeks' time. And of course, I'm sure that hashtag Clamp Nation is going to be in full force in 2 weeks' time. So we'll see you then, Logan. Thank you so much for hopping in the booth with us.
Thanks, Cam.
And with that, that's your first, that's your second and third finishers. Now we've got our fourth and fifth finishers. Michael Conti, that number 5 car, he is standing by with Tim Terry.
And one of the hard chargers on the evening had to dig deep from 24th place in qualifying, was 33rd in the warm-up session. So, Mike, where did this 4th place finish come from?
Well, Tim, we had a really good car all night, and you know, we haven't qualified the best the last couple weeks, so that always puts us in a hole. But being that it was Dover, it was a little bit more challenging to dig out of that. Got some damage early on, off of 2, got doored pretty bad, so that killed the car for a little bit. So when we fixed that, put us back to 39th, and after that, it was just a constant, you know, effort to move forward. That one long run we got, the car was phenomenal. We gained like 15 spots, was running down the leaders before we pitted. So really good car. Again, a big testament to everybody at Team Conti for their hard work. Hastings and Dave and Brian, and we added Pat this week, so big thanks to all of them for working on it. But Pete car was good tonight. Lacked a little bit of short run speed to keep up with those guys at the end, but it was a lot of fun watching those top three duke it out for that last spot. So that was pretty cool. But overall, a good night, and can't really complain.
You talked about that final restart. You and Cody Bias had a lot of championship contenders around you at the end. You guys were going for top 5 finishes, possibly a win. They were going for a championship. You've been in that situation before, coming down to the end of the season, going for a championship. Was that on your mind on the restart, knowing those guys are going for a championship? And how much did it weigh on your mind that you wanted to win and put up another W on the board?
Well, I remember back about 100 years ago when I went for mine in 2014. I remember just hoping that the people around me would understand the situation and cut me some slack, and I was cut a lot of slack. I was given a lot of room, and I remember that. So Clamp It was really quick tonight, especially on the short runs, and he had a good run on me with a couple laps to go, and I pushed up high off of 2, and at that point I knew that it wasn't really... I wasn't going to beat him off the corner without, putting both of our races at risk, so I kind of just backed out and let him have it. Because, I mean, if I was in the same situation and I had somebody that was really slower in front of me that wasn't racing for much beside trying to finish best of the rest in 9th, I'd hope that they would think big picture and not put both of our races at risk. So definitely had that on my mind. With that being said, though, I didn't lay over at any point in time to anybody out there, so I just had to fight too hard all night. And with how hard we fought and how much of a mess I had to go through to be completely honest, to get back up there, I wasn't gonna just let anybody by. But with the Clamp It deal, he was obviously faster and he had the run, so that was just common courtesy. But I mean, we've come a long way. We're not going to Homestead, but what we are doing is we're going to Homestead not for a championship, but to win a race, and we've got the opportunity to do so. So I'm pleased with that, and I think we'll run well there, and hopefully get us one more win before the year's out.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. You go in 9th into that final race. You can't advance any more positions because that's the top 8, the playoff positions. You've got Dylan Duval back there, but he's about 13 or so points back behind you. So there's really not much to lose and not much to gain. So when does that prep start for Homestead for this Peak Ford team? What do you do going in with the mindset knowing that there's really nothing to lose and nothing to gain?
Yeah, we just keep going at it like we have the last 2 to 3 months. I think that we are arguably one of the most prepared teams out there right now. I think what we do with telemetry and divvying up testing and time management, I think we make the most of the least amount of time. We don't have a ton of people. I mean, that's obvious. I make that clear almost every week now. But with the people that we do have, we make the most of it, and our testing is efficient. And we've made a lot of gains, since the halfway mark of this year. So we're going to probably start testing for Homestead next week sometime. We don't want to burn ourselves out, but we'll put a lot of effort into that one and try to get one more before the year's out for everybody. I said, obviously, Peak has been on board for a couple years now through thick and thin, so I can't thank them enough for sticking with me. Pro Geek is a great sponsor of the team, and Brian, so unfortunately, Brian can't give them a shout out tonight, but Pro Geek has been a long time sponsor of us, so thanks to them. And everybody else, everybody back at Old World and JDR Graphics, everybody that's put a hand into making this car what it is now. I appreciate them, and it's good to run up front, and I'm really excited to see what we can do at Homestead next week.
That's Michael Conti, driver of the number 5, finishes in 4th place. Mike, we'll see you in a couple of weeks at Homestead.
Alrighty, thank you, Tim.
And we'll move on to position number 5, and here's another driver that was looking for a win here this evening. It's driver number 27 in Cody Bias. And Cody, need to ask you about the final 50 laps. Had some strategy come into play. You qualified 7th, had an up and down night. You come home in 5th. Let's talk about the pit strategy, because you had a caution there where you almost got into the pit barrel. Had to avoid that, make that fake, and come back out on the racetrack.
Yeah, that was a pretty close call. I realized I passed the commitment line, and I wanted to stay out. And I saw everyone came down pit road, and I missed getting inside of the commitment line, and that way I had to stay out, or else if I would have pit, I would have gotten a black flag. So after that, I think Dylan stayed out with us, and like you said, for the last like 30 or so laps, it was just trying to hang on and get all we can get with what we had. Because at that point, with the way the cautions were falling, nobody was going to pit. And luckily, we ended up with a top 5 somehow. It started off all right. The car wasn't good. We worked on it. We got it better. We had some internet problems, and we fell all the way back to 31st. And that really long green flag run, we were able to drive up inside the top 10, and then after that, we just started working our way back up there to eventually end up where we did, which was a big accomplishment.
I'll ask you the same question I did Mike. You're battling up there with the championship contenders, per se. Some of those guys are fighting to stay in contention, try to get one of those 4 final spots. You're up there trying to get the win. How hard did you push in those final few laps, knowing that there were some of those championship contenders around and maybe not wanting to mess up their fate?
I'd be lying if I said I was cutting them any slack. I'm going out there, like you said, to try to win a race. I know their situation, and I'll race them with tons of respect and with a bunch of room and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, we're here for a win. We owe it to the team and everyone who puts all the effort into these cars each and every week. And with our partners with Simcraft and all those guys, it's just we owe it to them to get the best finish we can if we can't win. So I'm going to go out there and give it my all every single lap. And it doesn't really matter who I'm racing or what they're racing for. I'm going to try to get the best finish I can each week.
You've had an up-and-down season. Obviously, your first win in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series is going to be the highlight on the 2017 season, but it's another upswing in the points. With everybody so close in the point standing, 16th place going in, what is your realistic goal in 2 weeks? Can we get another win and maybe get ourselves a little bit closer to the top 10 in the point standings? What is your prognosis going into the Homestead Miami Speedway?
I feel realistically we could get up to 12th. I feel like that's the highest we'll be able to get. I think 10th and 11th are way far ahead, and we would need some bad luck from those guys to catch up to them. But yeah, for the season, it's been up and down. We've ran really well at the mile and a half and all the speedways, and I made a big move midway through the year where I actually moved to a different part of the country, and I was forced to miss a few races there, and I wasn't able to obviously recover, which kind of put us in a giant hole this year. We had a lot of speed this year, and it's unfortunate because I feel like we should be one of those 4 guys going into Homestead. And at this point, we're just trying to build all the momentum we can in order to come back next year even stronger.
Before we let you go here this evening, the Simcraft Chevy, obviously great run here. What are you looking at for Homestead? Do we win Homestead Miami Speedway? Is a top 5 on your radar? What are you looking for going into this final race of 2017?
Yeah, like you said, we're going to bring that 27 Simcraft Chevy, try to get it well prepared for Homestead, and anytime the guys from the team work on a car, we're definitely capable of winning. So we'll keep that in mind, and we'll go give it all we can, and hopefully we can get a win out of it next week to end the year right.
And that's Cody Bias coming home with another top 5 finish here this evening. That would be his 5th on the season. He'll go into Homestead Miami Speedway looking for his 2nd career NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series win. Evan, there's a driver to watch in that final race coming up in 2 weeks' time.
And we know the drivers who will battle for those prizes, including a NASCAR Championship ring, of course, the $10,000 and the trip to NASCAR Championship weekend out in Homestead, Miami, Florida. Again, Ryan Luza, good to the points, but locking himself in tonight with the win will accompany Ray Alfalla, who won 2 weeks ago at Darlington, and then Logan Clampett and Bobby Zelensky, who make it to the championship 4 in on point. Zelensky wasn't in a qualifying spot as of 3 laps to go, but the win, courtesy of Luza, and rather the lack of a win from Novak, gets him into the championship 4, and you could see how the chase looked before tonight and how the grid looked following tonight as we get set cam. Again, even though last year it was all intended purposes, you got to beat the other guy, Alfalla and Sturgis, head-to-head. This is the first time we've seen this playoffs. And to make it quite easy for you, I like the way Ray Alfalla phrased it a couple of weeks ago. 2 weeks' time is a $10,000 raise.
Yeah, I mean, it really does get to be that simple, but there's just going to have to be so much more in it. So much has to be lined up properly. The crews have to get everything right. Your crew chief has to have the cars set up right. You got to be prepared for every eventuality as far as weather goes. I mean, as far as pre-planning goes, I know that some people were worried maybe about over-planning for this race, but I wouldn't be too surprised if we don't see that that crew chief book just a little bit thicker going to this race, because this one really is for all the marbles. There's no halfway money amount. There's no high five for making the round of 8 playoff. This is it. This is literally for everything that they're entirely racing for. 16 full rounds. And I gotta say, Evan, I mean, this season's really flown by, and we've seen some really fantastic racing. And if last year's Homestead is anything to be prepared for this year's Homestead, it is going to be a historic race. That is for certain.
And for what this season has been, Tim, I think that this season deserves, these drivers deserve a finale like none other in 2 weeks' time. Vincent, Richardson, Novak, and Challenger, they go home. They'll still be on the racetrack at Homestead, but it's fighting for 5th on the back, and nobody really looks back at the record books at the guys who finished 5th on the back. It's going to come down to these drivers at Homestead, and if you thought that Zach Novak was feeling the pressure tonight, having to get the win for his playoff hopes to stay alive, just think about these guys in 2 weeks' time when they hit the grid at Homestead, and you are going to be paranoid about every single possible thing that could go wrong in that championship 4 race. Ray Alfala has been here. He has done this, not under this format, but he is the greatest driver in the history of this series. A 3-time champion looking to go back-to-back. Winner from 1 year ago. The last time he won his first 2 championships, they were back-to-back. So you've got Luza, you've got Clampett, and you've got Zelensky, 2 rookies and a sophomore, looking to go up against a 3-time champion in a winner-take-all fight.
And when it comes to drivers fighting for this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series championship, as you mentioned, Evan, the other 3 in the battle are rookies when it comes to going into Homestead for that final race or going for a championship. Ray Alfala has been there before. He's won 3. He battled with Tyler Hudson for a championship as well. He has seen the ups and downs of the Homestead Miami Speedway. But you mentioned it as well. Zach Novak went in tonight knowing that he had to win. It's easy for us to sit up here and say, hey, he's got to win a race. It's easy for us because we're not behind the wheel. You talk to Zach Novak in the middle of the race, that stress level continued to rise throughout the race. At the end of it, he comes about 4 laps short of punching his ticket to Homestead. He could go into next week and possibly win that race and think what might have been in those 3 races prior. But nevertheless, it's going to be a battle down to the finish. I think you're going to have to win it in order to win the championship. Logan Clampett, Bobby Zelensky going to have to step up their games. They've been great. They've been consistent these last few races, but they haven't gone to victory lane. Ryan Luza and Ray Alfala have in that 3-race little playoff stretch going in to that final race. It's going to be intense. It was intense here. It's going to ramp up another 10 notches going in to that Homestead Miami Speedway. I've been on the crew for a couple of these, and I think this one might be the most exciting going in to that final race to crown a champion and $10,000.
And with all of that being said and teased for 2 weeks' time, the round of 8 falls into our rear view mirror. 15 races down and just 1 to go. As always, we'd like to thank you for watching this special presentation of RaceSpotTV on iRacing Live, Fans Choice TV, and the Motor Racing Network. You can find out more information about iRacing's World Championship Series online by going to wcs.iracing.com. On behalf of the entire Tuesday night team, Istvan Ballo, Simon Grossman, Kevin Pape, Andy Warner, and of course, the folks at RaceSpotTV, Will Vincent, Hugo Louise, and everybody else who anchors our coverage of all 3 of the iRacing World Championship Series. For Cam Walsh, Tim Terry, and myself, Evan Pasoko, want to thank you for joining us tonight and congratulate those championship 4. Ryan Luza, Ray Alfala, Logan Clampett, and Bobby Zelensky will head into the season finale in 2 weeks' time. To the victor goes the spoils. It'll be the first ever winner-take-all $10,000 race in the history of this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing. Tuesday Thursday, October the 10th on RaceSpotTV is the place, with coverage beginning at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Until then, sleep easy, because I promise these guys won't be. We'll crown a champion next time out on iRacing Live. Until then, good night.